Ali, 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 yeah. I praise Allah for these lessons. I'm striving to be the message, and I thank Allah for his blessings. Ali was the circle 7. I praise Allah for these lessons. I'm striving to be the message, and I thank Allah for his blessings. Ali was the circle 7. I praise Allah for these lessons. I'm striving to be the message, and I thank Allah for his blessings. Ali was the circle 7. I praise Allah for these lessons. I'm striving to be the message, and I thank Allah for his blessings. Ali was the circle 7. I praise Allah for these lessons. I'm striving to be the message, and I thank Allah for his blessings. Ali was the circle 7. I praise Allah for these lessons. I'm striving to be the message, and I thank Allah for his blessings. Ali was the circle 7.
Islam, 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 Moorish America, want to rise upon the 7 within the circle of justice, mercy, love, and right, and give all praises to the great God, Allah, Father God, Allah, and honors to his holy prophet, honors to our holy prophet, Noble Drew Ali, El-Hajj Sharif Abdul Ali, that is. We give honors to our Moorish kin once again, here, there, and everywhere, and therefore honors to all of you who are continuously honoring yourselves by being yourselves. But let us call forth our Moorish kin so that they may open up your hearts and minds, that you may open up the way. Call forth our beloved brother and Consul General of the Texas Territory, Dr. Marvin Nathaniel Edwards Bey. Islam.
Islam, family, and gratitude and rising, giving all praise to the great God Allah, giving highest honors to his prophet, our prophet, Prophet Noble Drew Ali, Al-Hajj Sharif Abdul Ali. Give high honors to our theocratic government, our Moorish American government. Give high honors to our Act 1. I give high honors to all of our officials. I give high honors to this class, our E.A.R.S class, our Egyptian Adeptus Research Sultanate class, as well as I give honors to our instructor and host, our National Assistant Grand Sheikh of Moorish America, Dr. Pseudo-HIEROGLYPHS Sepswell, for hosting our most powerful class this morning. I give honors to all the scribes that's on the council, as well as I give honors to any of those that are in the audience. I give honors to everything that is Moorish. Our flag, our seal, our emblem, our divine constitution, Holy Quran, Book of Ali, our 101, 102, the exhumed of a nation, all of our divine revelation. I give honor to the forerunner of our prophet, Dr. Marcus Mosaic L. As I give honors to our ancestors, whom shoulders we stand upon. We are the return of the ancient ones. And I'll begin with our Tibetan, Egyptian Adept, Moorish American, and Moorish American prayer. Ya Allah amnuheru mekuneteru. Ya Allah abheteru. Ya Allah ma'adheru. Ya Allah hoteperu. Ya Allah heru. Ya Allah ma'adher kuti. Ya Allah awajet dejuti. Ya Allah patem sutek, patem heru. Ya Allah bamaduti. El hedges lay up to Ali. Amen. Hallelujah. 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 In transliteration, O thou the Father of the universe, O thou the Father of love, O thou the Spirit of truth, O thou the Spirit of peace, O thou the Spirit of freedom, O thou the Spirit of justice, O Allah, you are my protector, O Allah, you are my guide, O Allah, you are my salvation by night and by day, O Allah, through your holy prophet, O Allah, Drew Ali. Amen. Holy Issa, Holy Issa, Holy Issa. And now I will read our divine constitution of Moorish America. Salvation, our God, unity. Divine Constitution of Moorish America, Act 1. The Grand Sheikh and the Chairman of Moorish America are empowered to make law and enforce laws with the assistance of the Prophet and the Grand Body of Moorish America. The Assistant Grand Sheikh is the Assistant Grand Sheikh in all affairs, if he lives according to love, truth, peace, freedom, and justice, and it is known before the citizens of Moorish America. The Bylaws, Act 2. All meetings are to be opened and closed promptly, according to the Circle 7 and love, truth, peace, freedom, and justice. Friday is our holy day of rest, because on a Friday, the first man was formed in flesh. And on a Friday, the first man departed out of flesh and ascended unto his Father God Allah. For that cause, Friday is the holy day for all Muslims all over the world. Act 3. Love, truth, peace, freedom, and justice must be proclaimed and practiced by all citizens of Moorish America. No citizen is to put in danger or accuse falsely his brother or sister on any occasion at all that may harm his brother or sister, because Allah is love. Act 4. All citizens must preserve these holy and divine laws, and all citizens must obey the laws of the government, because by being a Moorish American, you are a part and parcel of the government and must live the life accordingly. Act 5. No organization of Moorish America is to cause any confusion or to overthrow the laws and constitution of the said government, but to obey hereby. Act 6. With us, all citizens must proclaim their nationality, and we are teaching our people their nationality and their divine creed, that they may know that they are a part and a parcel of this said government, and know that they are not Negroes, colored folks, black people, or Ethiopians, because these names were given to slaves by slaveholders in 1779 and lasted until 1865 during the time of slavery. But this is a new era of time now, and all men now must proclaim their free national name to be recognized by the government in which they live and the nations of the earth. This is the reason why Allah, the great God of the universe, ordained Noble Drew Ali the prophet to redeem his people from their sinful ways. The Moorish Americans are the descendants of the ancient Moabites whom inhabited the northwestern and southwestern shores of Africa. Act 7. All citizens must promptly attend their meetings and become a part and a partial of all uplifting acts of Moorish America. Moorish Americans must pay their dues and keep in line with all necessities of Moorish America, and then you are entitled to the name of faithful. Husband, you must support your wife and children. Wife, you must obey your husband and take care of your children and look after the duties of your household. Sons and daughters must obey father and mother and be industrious and become a part of the uplifting of fallen humanity. All Moorish Americans must keep their hearts and minds pure with love and their bodies clean with water. This divine covenant is from your holy prophet, Noble Drew Ali, through the guidance of his Father God Allah. Prophet Noble Drew Ali, peace and blessings be upon him, founding father and framer of the divine constitution and bylaws of Moorish America. Now this meeting has been opened according to the law, in love, truth, peace, freedom, and justice in Circle 7. Okay, and at this time, I will turn the meeting over to our National Assistant Grand Secretary of State, Dr. Dendra Ani Kurta-Bey, for the reading of the chapter of the week. Islam?
Islam, God man. Islam, family. I am Dr. Dendra Ani Kurta-Bey. But first, let me rise and give praises to our great God Allah. I give honors to our holy prophet, Noble Drew Ali. I give honors to Act 1. I give honors to all my government officials. I give honors to our National Assistant Grand Sheikh for this class tonight. This morning, our E.A.R.S class this morning. I give honors to our Council General of Texas, Dr. Marvin Edwards Bey, for opening us up according to law and reading our Constitution, and our bylaws. And at this time, I will be reading our chapter of the week, chapter 64, coming from our Holy Quran, Holy Instructions from the Prophet, Weakness. Vain and inconstant as thou art, O child of imperfection, how canst thou be weak? Is not inconstancy connected with frailty? Can there be vanity without infirmity? Avoid the danger of the one, and thou shalt escape the mischiefs of the other. Wherein art thou most weak? In that wherein thou seemest most strong. In that wherein most thou gloriest. Even in possessing the thing which thou hast, in using the good that is about thee. Art not thy desires also frail? Or knowest thou even what it is thou wouldest wish? When thou hast obtained what most thou soughtest after, behold, it contenteth thee not. Wherefore loses the pleasure that is before thee it relish. And why appeareth that which is yet to come the sweeter? Because thou art wearied with the good of this, because thou knowest not the evil of that which is not with thee. Know that to be content is to be happy. Couldst thou choose for thyself, would thy Creator lay before thee all that thy heart could ask for? Would happiness then remain with thee, or would joy always dwell in thy gates? At last, thy weakness forbiddeth it, thy infirmity declareth against it. Variety is to thee in the place of pleasure, but that which permanently delighteth must be permanent. When that is gone, thou repentest the loss of it, though while it was with thee thou despisest it. That which succeedeth it have no more pleasure to thee, and thou afterwards quarreleth with thyself for preferring it. Behold, the only circumstance in which thou arrest not. Is there anything in which thy weakness appeareth more than in desiring things? It is in the possessing and in the using of them. Good things cease to be good in our enjoyment of them. What nature meant pure sweet are sources of bitterness to us. From our delights arise pain, from our joys sorrow. Be moderate in the enjoyment, and it shall remain in thy possession. Let thy joy be founded on reason, and to its end shall sorrow be a stranger. The delights of love are ushered in by sighs, and they terminate in languishment and dejection. The objects thou burnest for nauseate with satiety, and no sooner hast thou possessed it, but thou art weary of its presence. Join esteem to thy admiration, unite friendship with the love. So shalt thou find in the end content so absolute that it surpasses raptures, tranquility more worth than ecstasy. Allah hath given thee no good without its admixture of evil, but he hath given thee also the means of throwing off the evil from it. As joy is not without its alloy of pain, so neither is sorrow without its portion of pleasure. Joy and grief, though unalike, are united. Our own choice only can give them to us entirely. Melancholy itself often giveth delight, and the extremities of joy are mingled with tears. The best thing in the hands of a fool may be turned to his destruction, and out of the worst, the wise will find means of good. So blended is weakness in thy nature, O man, that thou hast not strength either to be good or to be evil entirely. Rejoice that thou canst not exceed in evil, and let the good that is within thy reach content thee. The virtues are allotted to various stations. Seek not after impossibilities, nor grieve that thou canst not possess them all. Wouldst thou at once have the liberality of the rich and the contentment of the poor? Shall the wife of thy bosom be despised because she showed not the virtues of the widow? If thy father sink before thee in the division of thy country, can at once thy justice destroy him, and thy duty save his life? If thou behold thy brother in the agonies of slow death, is it not mercy to put a period to his life? And is it not also death to be his murderer? Truth is but one. Thy doubts are of thine own raising. He who made virtues what they are planted in thee a knowledge of their preeminence. Act as thy soul dictates to thee, and the end shall be always right. Islam, Islam, Islam. I will now turn everything back over to our host, our instructor, Dr. National Assistant Grand Sheik, Dr. Sadu Amiti El Maheji Sepsuel. Are you there, God man?
Islamism as close as a love thought, and everything the prophet brought and taught. Islam, Islam, Islamism without the schism. Want to rise upon the seven within the circle of justice, mercy, love, and right, and give all praises to the great God Allah, Father God Allah, and honors to his holy prophet, honors to our holy prophet, Noble Drew Ali, El Hajj Sharif Abdul Ali, that is. We give honors to our Moorish kin once again, here, there, and everywhere, and therefore honors to all of you who are continuously honoring yourselves by being yourselves. We give honors to our Grand National Seal. We give honors to our Grand National Emblem, National Flag, Divine Constitution and bylaws, and honors to all of you who are indeed a living manifestation and personification of everything that our Holy Prophet brought to make us a nation. I want to welcome you to another Egyptian Adeptus Research Sultanate session. And I'm your host instructor, Dr. Shahid Imani Amohadi Shabazz. And my ancient Comedian high name being the same as Dr. Shedawal Mintiel Muhajjed Sheptuel. And we got a grand drawing to bring on the manifest Moorish kin, most powerful measure. So it's going to be a grand manifestation of information, so to speak, in order to bring our people into being acquainted with this language. And we've been touching on, this pseudo-hieroglyphic and Ptolemaic hieroglyphic creation, and this going to remove a few more cobwebs from the hearts and minds of our people as it relates to this particular subject matter. And so without further ado or delay, we're going to have our Moorish kin lay a foundation as we do. And we're going to actually start on page 321. And that's dealing with an ancient Kemetic Moorish history. We're going to get one of our scribes to volunteer that portion. Okay, Brother Bati Bey. All right. So we have you read from there up to 322 above. Be conscious of biblical beginnings. Islam.
Islam.
Okay. So that's Brother Bati Bey. And Grand Secretary of State, you can pick up on 322. And on be conscious of biblical beginning, and then go to, let's see here. I want to make sure I got this here. Page, let me see. I'm just making sure I equally distributed. Yeah, you can go above where it states back to the Greeks on page 324. Islam.
Islam.
Okay, and then next more, volunteer.
Islam.
Scribe. Okay, back to the Greeks from 324. Brother Marvin Edwards Bey. You're going to take us into the value of the divine history. And you can actually stop above what is Adam.
You say above what?
What is Adam? And that's on page 326.
Yes, sir. Okay.
Yes, sir. Islamism without the schism. So Ahmad Badu, you may proceed. Brother Bati Bey.
Islam. First, I'd like to
Islam.
rise and give all men of praise to Allah, honors to the Prophet, honors to our theocratic government and royal council, our flag, seal, emblem, our divine constitution, the suffrages, mufti, citizens alike, honors to all the Moors that are here in attendance, all the ones on the panel, and all the ones in our tracks. Islam. I will begin. Adam and Eve, an ancient Kemetic Moorish history. The illustrious Prophet Noble Drew Ali was the first Moorish American patriot to teach the lost found descendants of Africans the truth about Adam and Eve. He said they are the mothers and fathers of the human family, Asiatic and Muslims. Although the entire human family began in Africa, the majority of their true history has been secretly kept from the children in the Americas. A whitewashed European version of Adam and Eve has been force fed through Christianity to these African children during the subjugation of the mother continent. Until the advent of the Holy Prophet, the Western world saw the first human family on earth through spectacles that had been prescribed with falsehood, myths, and hypocrisy. Through these European designer glasses, the modern world saw only a pale skinned Adam and Eve, whom lived in a mystical Garden of Eden. This Eden had an exclusive for white folks only sign at the entrance. Also, in the black psyche, this Eden was propagated to be in the well off white folk settlement, and with the exception of being infested with the talking snake, was believed to be the only heaven a good Negro could possibly, perhaps, maybe, pray to reach in the sweet by and by after they die. To this day, most religious circles accept the Dark Age story as the word of God. Since slaves are bred to have short memories, most ex-slaves habitually still serve the God of their former slave masters. This God could not be perceived nor defined beyond the realms of the very church that ordained the denationalization and enslavement of of African worshippers. When Drew Ali first brought the true history of Africans to the Moorish, they became all at its infinite, universal, and deific depth. To this day, of all the millions of Negro churches in the United States with countless Bible thumpers, there is not one so called African Christian with full relationship knowledge to the true origin of Adam and Eve. The story of Adam and Eve is actually the original verbal historical account of the first civilized people of Africa. It is the true it is the truth of their divine origin, fall and attainment to perfection, being told by wise men to all initiates. The glory of this first man and woman represents the complete cycle of the great God in man. The circle of life was called Emmanuel by the ancient Israelites. The holy story of Adam and Eve is the divine essence of a chartered course that all men must ultimately follow. There is no escape from the fixed destiny endured in the historical infinity of the story of Adam and Eve. Without the pure knowledge of one's derivation, any person armed only with human knowledge will face the instability of their karmic presence while awaiting an obscured future. Without the true knowledge of Adam and Eve, carnal man will believe he is in the make believe life that is trapped between birth and death. In this chapter, the required do or die light of Adam and Eve will be revealed. How to how the esoteric history of Adam and Eve has been used to lessen gods into humans and reduce humans into Negroes. The deliberate burial of the true value to the first family on earth will lay bare the dark aging of a people. The state of ignorance about Adam and Eve has also been used directly to secure the institution of slavery in the Western Hemisphere. This state served the paternal roots of nearly a half a billion African nationals, detaching them from the human family with the marks of Negro, Black, and Colored, NBC. Every nation that claims attachment to the human family has had their Adam and Eve and their Eve. The Bible is full of Adam and Eves. However, most of them are shrouded under the terms begot or begotten. In fact, the Adam and Eve genealogy of Yehoshua, the Christ, through his father Joseph and mother Mary in the books of Matthew's 1 to 6 and Luke 3 to 23 to 38 are sound examples of how serious African nationals truly are about their divine origin. Adam is the founding father of the human family of nations and its first patriot. Other more renowned Adams are the great Ham and his lineage of Cush, Mizraim, Put, and Canaan. Also, there is undeniable father divine of many nations, Abraham, with his son Ishmael and Isaac. All of these are Adams of great nations, civilizations, and religions. The latter son actually subdivided the first religious creed, the ancient Chemedian mystery system, into Judaism and Islam. See chapter 18. Most Americans can now relate to George Washington, Thomas Jefferson, and Quincy Adams, etc., as being the founding fathers of the United States of America. By divine design, they are the indisputable Adams of the USA. However, today's problem with the same Americans is they have very little understanding when it comes to their ex-slaves being a clean and pure nation with their own Adam. Hence, the purpose of the subtitle, The Exhuming of the Nation, to the biography of Noble Drew Ali, indeed also by divine design as revealed in this biography. The prophet Noble Drew Ali is the return of Adam. By this design, he is the first patriot and indisputable founding father of the lost found tribe of Ali, the new Moorish American nation. It does not take the research ability of a master historian to realize the existence, absence, and exhuming of this cornerstone of the human family, and that only Noble Drew Ali, having been born among them, proclaimed this nation as his by their own divine name and number. Drew Ali states all Adam and Eve are the mother and fathers, yet they are one. Hence, the honoring of one's father and mother became one of man's first obligations and source of strength. The so-called Negro race and other NBC people are the only people on earth today without a mother or father from which to honor. Matthews 15:1-4. High paternal honor has been a covenant among African nations since their fall into humanity. It is more holistic in cultures than any modern day religious concepts and breathes on every civilized family origin, genealogy, and heritage. Drew Ali also taught the Moorish Americans that they are olive-skinned Asiatics, angels, and have the same Adam and father, or Adam and Eve, father and mother, as those who guard the holy city. See Genesis 3:24 and Quran and question 57-63. He educated the Moors in the fact they are the direct children of Adam and Eve. This may seem somewhat acceptable as common knowledge by those in this age of cyberspace and optic centers. However, in 1913, most American Negroes actually have been trained to believe their present idea of Yehoshua, God, and his mother Mary were all plains pale skin and the opposite themselves. To say the least, to them, God's first man and woman of the Bible had to be ever so white. As far as good Christians, colored people were concerned, the first white family of God in their home, a Garden of Eden, was a delicious and evasive slice of pie in the sky after you die. Surely, this garden was where all white folks and a few good Negroes went to if they were blessed. Prior to the advent of this angel of Allah, question 41, the Moorish of North America were miseducated into a dark age of Christianized, Darwinized, and denationalized pseudo life. As unconscious Negroes, blacks, and colored people, NBCs, they were deceived into believing Adam and Eve were two Europeans in a God's mystical paradise. It is only natural for a few NBC and some self-proclaimed white folks to defend 2,000 years of deception with the modern Christian statement, it doesn't matter what the color of Adam and Eve, we are all children of God. Even the crash dummy would even the crash dummy would reply with, since the skin color of God and Adam and Eve was not important, then why was it biblically taken away and replaced with pale skin? This bitter bit of history of a people's mental status should be well remembered as we now ultimately endeavor into Adam and Eve as originally told by the ancient ones. But first, let's uncover some more of this 2,000-year-old hoax. Adam and Eve has been mostly told by thieves. No oppressor, slave master, or otherwise ruling government has ever written an accurate history of his or her captives. The Babylonians, Chaldenians, and Romans, Islamic rulers, and Euro-Christian governments, etc., all have slanted the history of their victims to reflect themselves as superior saviors of the wretched of the earth. Naturally, they were all merely doing their God's will to subjugate or annihilate the inferior enemy in order to save them from themselves. Such history will reflect the victors as having saved the wretched from this assumed inevitable doom. The Greco Roman interpreted writings of the Israelite histories are by far a prime example to support this reoccurring fact. It turns out, according to prophetic destiny, the pale-skinned nations of Europe are today's controlling world rulers, straddling the current cusp between the Piscean and Aquarian age. Naturally, their great book, which tells his story of the conquered people of Africa's African descent, is the foremost propagated and most read book in recorded history. The Bible, by far the greatest book of collected African history, is history to be written by Europeans, oddly enough, was not written by Africans, and it is not the infamous Word of God. No, God did not write the Bible. The Greeks from Europe wrote the first draft of the Bible, and it was called the Septuagint. See Judges finale. Noble Drew Ali said, you can't control how other man writes your Moorish history, but when you get the pen in your hand, write your own. Tell the truth and sign your name to it. The ancient Chaldeans, having enslaved the tribes of Israel, misnomered them collectively as Hebrews. This was a very degrading label, and not the free national name of the people, of the peoples. This remaining or labeling one's chattel is not a new phenomenon. Historically, slave masters have never addressed their slaves by their free names. Slaves, as with all properties, are given slave names. This is because they are conquered people and classified by their rulers as inferior and less than a first-class citizen or lower. This is standard procedure based upon the strength that no slave can ever be greater than his or her master. In the modern days, history has repeated itself with the renaming of the West African Moors into Negroes, blacks, colored people, NBC. And like the so-called Hebrews, after generations of being called names other than your own, the branded slave labels became accepted as norm. Once any living thing began responding to the summons or callings outside the purity of its own natural freedom, it has been domesticated. Indeed, within the slave world of Hebrews and blacks, some would rather die trying to be what they are not than to live being themselves. See 13th and 14th Amendment. Still, as soon as Moses freed his tribesmen from the Pharaoh's oppression and they got on their feet, these freshly freed nations slandered their former slave masters as Egyptian. The derogatory label Egyptian replaced the true name Chemedian gods of the Nile. In all the Hebrew communication and publications. And so it remained until this day. Similarly, in this era, the European rulers called the descendants of Amexem Akabulan Negroes, colored, and black. As the so-called blacks were free to read and write, they called their slave masters white. And the beat goes on, and the revolving doors of Maya continue going to and fro. The Israelites, Hebrews, Yehoshua etc. of 2,000 years ago did not write the Bible, a history book about themselves and their verbal account of the creation and fall of man. In fact, the Torah was over 2,000 years old when the Greeks wrote the Bible. The Torah contains Israel's story in their divine accuracy, so there was really no need for another book of accounts. Ergo, since the Israelites through which Yehoshua was born had no use for a book written by their oppressors about them, then who did? Obviously, the authors, whether they milked a council or 70 rabbis to get it or not, it was still written for the benefit of the Greeks, Romans, and subsequently nations of the earth. See chapter 18. And with this conclusion, I will now turn this meeting over to our Grand Secretary of State.
Islam and gratitude. Islam Morishkin, first fall want to rise, giving all praises to our Father God Allah, giving honor to our Prophet Noble Drew Ali, the last prophet in these days and times, giving honor to our Egyptian Adeptus Research Sultanate class, to our National Assistant Grand Sheikh, Dr. Shedowa Menti El Mohedjed Shepsuel, our Consul General of Texas, Dr. Edwards Bey, for opening our meeting according to law, to our National Assistant Grand Secretary of State, Dr. Dendra Nia Kurta Bey, for reading our chapter, to our scribes and our family online. Be conscious of biblical beginnings. To this day, most do not know they have been lied to by those who wrote the Word of God in their coin, street, Greek language. The biblical Adam and Eve saga was among the first literature the slaves were allowed, or force-fed, to read, and was greatly enforced with barbaric dosages of the fear of white man God by European rulers and slave masters alike. This was the sole purpose for Freemasonry, the Reconstruction Amendments, and the Ku Klux Klan. Their establishments were to save these black sinning heathens from their own wretchedness and for the unconscious institutions of slavery's New World Order. Albeit since the Greeks' biblical version is the only version of Adam and Eve known to so-called blacks, then let's sojourn there and see what they look like in the light. But bear in mind the divine origin of the original Hebrew laws of Moses began in the Egyptian mystery system, and the basic European translation of these biblio-teachings evolved into a middleman religion of events, which quite candidly he brewed up. Also remember, now as the Moorish American began to write their own history, had it not been for Noble Drew Ali's revealing these great truths of the divine origin of African nations, the Western world would not be forced to concede to over 2,000 years of fabricated religious dogma with their quote-unquote information highways and cyberspace intelligence. The true story of Adam and Eve is all about the divine creation and heritage of the original African people. They were not only the first man to people at the planet Earth, but their will was emerged with the will of their Father God. Drew Ali placed this in the science of Asiatics and Muslims, the mothers and fathers of the human family. Question number 57. Here it would be good to note A Muslim is anyone who submits his or her will entirely to the will of the great God. Hence, Adam and Eve were Muslims before they became Asiatics and human. During the millenniums of Adam and Eve in the Garden of Eden and into the world called Asia, there were no Europeans made. The hueless ones of the Netherlands were not even a thought. But now today's pale-skinned nations have had the privilege of governing the earthland, telling his story. All of a sudden, they are the foremost authority on the original quote-unquote first family, Adam and Eve. Surely this is parallel only to a bastard giving the apocalypse of great-grandparents, or hearing fish stories being told by date trees, or mutt telling the history of his pedigree, or the green monkey that fathered AIDS. Speaking of monkeys, how is it an entire people who proudly proclaims to evolve from primates know the true history about the human family? Was it not these same people who pillaged the prophetic and oral history from the Hebrew tribes in the first place? Not only that, but as unconscious Moors try to paint themselves black into a biblical history, little do they notice it is the pale-skinned nations of Europe themselves who denounce all claims to the biblical human family. This paganistic practice of making God in the image and likeness of man is a gratified weakness amongst the nations of the earth. In these modern times, the nations of Europe named themselves white, then made Yehoshua in their image and called him God. Domesticated African slaves being forbidden first-rate entry into quote-unquote white Freemasonry and white Christianity were allowed to make their own versions of these institutions in the quiet of their slave quarters. Today, there are various NBC fraternal orders and Christian denominations fully equipped with their own versions of the Bible, complete with black Yehoshuas and surrounding characters in their image and likeness. Oh, the horrors of fallen humanity. Can all this be blamed on the rabid hormones of Mr. and Mrs. Monkey? The biblical story of Adam and Eve, as told by many religions of the cross, originated from Moses and various Hebrew slave tribes of Africa. Most of these tribal stories lost their spiritual significance in the translations from African origins to European carnal comprehension. What was later reported to the world, diluted and spiritually deprived versions of Greek interpretations of the creation and fall of man. These diverted rays of the truth were not the real thing, but had predominantly hatched the modern West. Not to speak radical against the church, but it seems to me, anyone who teaches man cannot be perfected and then give the great God a mama named Mary should know eventually they would have to face the truth sought by inquiring minds. How did the Greeks fit into biblical history? Turning to the centuries surrounding the life of Yehoshua, BC through AD, history reveals the Romans and Greeks were governing Palestine, question number 28. In fact, Greek was made the national language, although the indigenous, like Yehoshua, continued to speak Aramaic. 2 Kings 18:26, Ezra 4:7, the tongue of their forefathers. This is similar to English being made the national language of the United States, although the surviving Canaanite tribes, parentheses Indians, continue to speak Athabascan and other indigenous dialects. True history will also reflect the Greeks thought all languages other than Greek sounded like blah blah ho hum de blah and considered all non-Greeks barbarians. There are two levels to the Greek language: classical, correct or proper Greek, and Koine. Koine Greek is the everyday common street language with standard colloquial trash-talking expressions and general ad-libbing Greek. After the beginning, Koine became the word of God. You guessed it, the Septuagint, first translation of the Bible, was translated entirely in Koine Greek. Naturally, since the Greeks and Romans give themselves the title of God, question number 92, and wrote their Bibles in Greek and Latin, it is not strange for today's Black Christians, etc., to defend their master's book as the Word of God. To most of them, the only God they have ever known is the same masters which wrote the Bible and then used the same book to justify the ma'afa of African enslavement. Actually, the origin of the Word of God began as the words of the ancient pharaohs and simply means voice of the ruler of the land. Question number 93. People, namely so-called Negroes, who refer to the Bible as being the Word of God, are in fact giving praises to the words of the Greeks, and through various paganistic forms they are pleasing to themselves, make Europeans (parentheses white men) their God. This does not mean there are no truths in the Bible, quite the contrary. What this means is the Bible is not and was not ever the Word of God, but the words of the Greeks. It does not matter how much the Negro, black, and colored pastors hock, sweat, and spit in the name of Jesus. The letter J, pale-skinned God, and all came from the Greeks and was traumatized into the slaves by their European brothers. It must be remembered in the minds of the Greeks, they were the only gods. As a people, they could not fathom a divine origin and subsequently could not perceive a God greater than themselves, unless it was an African God-man whom they call Yehoshua to this very day. No European nation ever knew or worshipped the great God. As Drew Ali wrote, man's highest ideal is his God. The Greeks, at their greatest, were not powerful enough to completely hide the holy light of Africa that was centralized in ancient Kemet (parentheses Egypt). Nevertheless, once the truth has been confounded, it is no longer pure and can do more harm than healing. Where the Greeks and other Europeans have fallen short on African comprehensions is for anyone to know the spirit, they must be the spirit. The Greeks, neither Romans nor any of the pale-skinned invaders of the Holy Lands, never fully understood the spiritual foundation of Hebrew, Aramaic, sister language to Arabic, nor any of the other 200 languages of Akubalan. Note, Akubalan means mother of mankind or Garden of Eden. It is in the descendant language Swahili of the ancient Kushite. Akubalan is the indigenous name given to the continent later misnomered Africa by the Romans. Her first true and divine name is Amexium, which means land of the holy gods or land of the holy people. Moorish Holy Quran, chapter 46, ayat 3. The reason for this lack of transliteration is not because Africans were the primitive monkey-built pagans, as portrayed by virtually every European Bible pusher since Constantine, 280 through 337 AD. It is simply because they could not understand the boundless spirit realm. They could not measure what they could not see with their carnal eyes. The world of hallowed covenants, holistic cultures, and the line uniting divinity and matter is incomprehensible to those unable to see inward. See the third eye. This was the foremost lesson for the Adamites to learn. Whenever European rulers fail to understand the infinite and the timeless, they will either try to destroy or distort the subsequent manifest. These thoughts draw strength from the bowels of envy, lust, and hatred. It is in the nature of hatred to be short-sighted, a slave to time, and fearful of anything it does not create. Therefore, the foundation of the Bible rests upon a great conspiracy. It was the amalgamation between the Sanhedrin, beginning with Caiaphas, and the government of European rule to nationalize the Jewish religion under the Roman government. The world's greatest cover-up since Adam tried to hide from his maker had begun. Rome's subjugation of Israel's religion is rooted in the feigned crucified death and resurrection of Rabboni Yehoshua. Those Jews who would not conform to the government's version of Judaism were later called Christians, not because they were pious like Yehoshua the Christ, but because the title Christian distinguished the rebellious Jews from those willing to compromise under the Roman yoke and law. Yes, the first Christians were Jews. This is why Yehoshua warned John to beware of those who call themselves Jews and are not. Revelations 2:9. Today, the Roman assumable jurisdiction of civil customs is reenacted in the United States takeover of prohibition and the lotteries, number games, etc. Remember, selling liquor and running numbers were crimes of felony when acted by America's common people. But a government control of poor people's pleasures was legalized by the use of one word, license. A license is a document of authorization to a practice that would otherwise be illegal. Black's Law Dictionary. Oppression can do strange and often unimaginable things to the human mind. Weak-minded Jews became Christians the same way pork-free African Muslims have become pig-feet-eating Negro Christians of USA today. The powerful effects of oppression have never been truly measured on the minds of U.S. slaves. The Bible, with its Hebrew/Greek version of Adam and Eve, was siphoned from the Israelites during their state of iron hand oppression. The Greeks recognized the Comitian (Egyptian) influence in the Mosaic laws because Socrates, Plato, Aristotle, Hippocrates, etc., had all received their full education in the Egyptian mystery system, not to mention the notorious Alexander the Greek. The reader should also remember Moses, being raised as an Egyptian aristocrat, received the foremost teachings of its ancient Adeptus mystery system. These teachings also included perfection of the God self, with its powers of dominion over all other living things created by the seven eyes of Allah, the Elohim. This is why the Pharaoh's heart appeared hardened. Pharaoh simply knew all the sciences of the God-man, which Moses had mastered before being exiled. The Egyptian sages were simply not impressed with the exploits by one of their former students, who they viewed now as a traitor for taking the secret teachings into those forbidden lands in the north. Yehoshua the prophet also received these lessons, summum bonum, in the Egyptian temples featuring Sultanate, meaning man, know thyself. See religious finale. Now, at this time, we want to turn the meeting to the hands of our Consul General of Texas, Dr. Marvin Edwards Bey. Islam.
Islam and gratitude. That's the Grand Secretary of State. Yes, I'm Dr. Marvin Edwards Bey. Praise and honors have been given. And I'll begin. Back to the Greeks. The books of Moses, collectively called the Torah, translated from the Hebrew language containing no vowels into Greek, lost a world of spiritual definition in the very first draft of the Bible's Old Testament. The Greek version of the Holy Bible, called the Septuagint, the Greek word for 70 is also the Egyptian number for brotherhood. The Septuagint acquired its title from the Council of 70 rabbis that convened to translate the Torah into a low-class Greek language. All subsequent Bibles trickled down from this one. For example, the Roman Catholic Latin, the infamous King James Version, spurned more than 3,000 variations, edited, revised, and fraternal Word of God. Did I mention the Holy Quran and the ancient Bhagavad Gita has never been changed? This history is pertinent to Adam and Eve because most of the westernized world is only aware of their biblical version. Yet, the Bible was never written by a single prophet, as are other sacred tablets. This is because every major prophet always leaves a holy book of guidance for their special people. And while most Christian scholars are drenched in a maze of unresolved questions about Adam, Eve, Cain, the flood, Moses, the missing 18 years of Yehoshua's life, etc., etc. Rally. Does anyone question who titled the Bible holy in the first place? Or who said it is the Word of God? Another master question is, since there is no difference between the great God and his name, who is the God that wrote the Holy Bible? Truth is, the era of Moses was about 1300 BC. The oldest Hebrew story in the Bible only dates back to a little less than 4000 BC. Good gracious. There are pyramids more and mounds older than these Hebrew stories. The ancient seafaring Moabites had circumnavigated the entire continent of Amexem by 8000 BC. There were many African civilizations that gave birth to the tribes of Israel, collectively known as Hebrews. In fact, it is not strange that Adam's son Cain already knew his wife, although they were in Nod, east of Eden. Genesis 4, verses 16 through 17. The entire story of Adam and Eve marks the two great civilizations. The first was during the founding of Atlantis, Lemuria, and Mu. This was before the catastrophic earthquake, which is often confused with a 40-day biblical monsoon called the flood. When Moses led the tribes out of Egypt east into the promised land, did I mention the Moabites were already using Moab? The Amorites were busy in Ammon, and there were some Canaanites still in Canaan. In other words, the promised land was already being occupied by natives of that era. An accurate history would also reflect that the promised land was another lawful province of ancient Kemet, Egypt. During this time, the only gods of the civilized world were the pharaohs, who were the rulers of the earthland. They were not too pleased with those who called themselves Jews squatting on their land across the sea. It seems the descendants of those self-proclaimed Jews of that era would be repeating the same Exodus 3,300 years later in the 1948 Western-backed proclamation of Islamic occupied land. Case in point, the biblical Hebrew stories are not the true origin of the human family. These stories are mostly abstract versions of the divine creation, fall, and perfection of man. These histories of the world were learned by an enslaved people, Hebrews, while under Cometian rule and mystery system. The world's first religious creed, Islamism, by slaves never being greater than their masters, they rarely understand the origin or nature of their master's creed. Anyway, the original Hebrews with Moses' Egyptian teachings did not believe that God or man had beginnings, nor did they believe that spirit man could die, not as long as the great God lives. The Egyptians had taught Moses that man is a perfect being. This is why the great Torah, in its original Hebrew text, is by far more accurate than today's infamous Word of God. But only a few NBC people dig back far enough to the origin of a given matter. The truth of the creation and fall of man states, time never was when man was not. If life of man at any time began, a time will come when it would end. Most Holy Quran, chapter 1. In contrast to this immutable truth, The Greek's Holy Bible gave God in the beginning is the Greek. Hold up. Pardon the body. Let me start that again. Where was I? Oh, shoot. Okay. Anyway, the original Hebrews with Moses' Egyptian teachings did not believe that God or man had beginnings, nor did they believe that spirit man could die, not as long as the great God lives. The Egyptians had taught Moses that man is a perfect being. This is why the great Torah in its original Hebrew text is by far more accurate than today's infamous Word of God. But only a few NBC people dig back far enough to the origin of a given matter. The truth that the truth of the creation and fall of man states time never was when man was not. If life of man at any time began, a time would come when it would end. Morse Holy Quran, chapter 1. In contrast to this immutable truth, the Greeks' Holy Bible gave God the creation of man, the creation and man various time slots, with the Bible's infamous opening alpha passage of in the beginning, Genesis 1, verse 1. In the beginning is the Greek misinterpretation of the Hebrew oral history and became the start of today's once upon a time introduction to some Western stories. Only one kind of person would equate the infinite absolute with the finite duration called time. Perhaps this is why Noble Drew Ali stated, finite mind cannot comprehend things infinite. Ironically, the majority of the world rulers and evangelistic preaching about love for humanity. Hold on. Okay, ironically, the majority of the man-made people, parentheses, American Negro blacks, have not figured out one major problem with all the religious, political. Hold up. Pardon. Yeah, I'll call you back. Pardon the body. Okay. What was that? Okay. Okay. My book is falling apart on me. And so let's get back. Get back to this. Okay. I'm getting there. Terrible. Finite mind cannot comprehend things infinite. Ironically, the majority of the man-made people, American Negro blacks, have not figured out one major problem with all the religious, political, world rulers and evangelistic preaching about love for humanity. Why is it that none of the major religions teach them the truth of who they are? But then again, the problem itself has been a secret till now. Now, with some of the biblical discrepancies and other Greek / Roman slants to the original man aforementioned, let us now remind ourselves of Africa's Adam and Eve. Adam and Eve, as documentation, is the ancient Kemethian and Moabite record of spirit man's descent into human form and conscious liberation back to the all of his God's state again. For those Black African Americans, especially, stuck in the stupor of disbelief and never questioned what God Greek is in the Bible truly the word of, they need to review one historical revelation. The modern world is nearly 86% populated by people of olive skin. There are Bibles in all of them, even Islamic countries. Yet, how many nations and tribes of African descent, all people of parentheses, all people of hue, own and rule their indigenous countries? Yet, rule their indigenous land without European intervention. But the Bible and its trademark cross are in these places. And who is the economic, parentheses, and more often than not, political, social, and religious ruler of their lands? How much has been truly changed since the era of Brother Yehoshua? See, Illuminati. So what? Okay. So what does this have to do with Adam and Eve? Value, just plain value. Security is what gives a thing value. An accurate, unbiased, and truthful history of any place, person, and thing is what gives it value. Security is a manifest of purity, cleanliness, and truth. See Adam, Ish, parenthesis, Ish, Eve, parenthesis, Isha, in their God state as the original man chosen to be made from the soils of Eden, a Mexican Akupalan, Africa. Then as the first humans to walk the earth is to know their true history. The true history of Adam and Eve is so infinitely valuable to the Moorish, These were the children of Adam, Ish, and Eve, Isha, because they honored them as their divine link to their creator. As long as Moorish nations remembered their sacred origin, they could not be mentally enslaved. This is why it took the nations of Europe under the Roman Catholic / Christian crusades 2,000 years to break the minds of the Moors and whitewash away Adam and Eve from their memories. In fact, without speaking radical, the Bible is the chief agitator of the whitewashing machine of Adam and Eve. This is the reason they, the prophets, and Yehoshua appear suddenly pale skinned in the final rinse of the colored churches of today's Vatican subsidies. Let's see. Is that where I'm supposed to stop? Above. No, I'm supposed to read until above. What is Adam? Okay, I'll continue. The value of a divine history. Hardly any so-called Negroes, colored folk, or black people read Ish, Issa, Isa, and Isha into when they were gods in the garden. Today, they cannot fathom their ancient foreparents as being these gods that walked the earth. Even fewer know they were sun-kissed, with melanin embodied with flesh from the holy, rich grounds of Africa. Less have siphoned the reason why the Holy Lands are in Africa is because it gave birth to people. Tragically, even smaller amounts accept the value of knowing Adam and Eve are their mothers and fathers of the human family, Asiatics and Muslims. See appendix question number 57. But then again, some have been miseducated via the primate evolution. Via a primate evolution. Truth is, because they are not a free nation of people, today's NBC is by far more trained than educated. This formula is verified by the fact only property can be trained while education belongs to the citizens of a free national government. Hence, Negro and blacks being property names that identify those persons detached from the human family and not having father or mother can only be trained at best. Since the NBC does not have a divine history, they can be trained like domesticated beasts to be professors, judges, generals, congressmen, etc., for any master's government and social benefit. In the end, no property can accrue national prestige, wealth, independence, and prosperity. The making of the first god, Ish, Isa. Ish, or Isa, was the first angelic god to be formed in a higher tone of flesh. This is why the Moorish are taught the garden is both a geographical and a conscious status. The geographical garden, soon to be explained, is the place on the planet Earth, namely where Arabia Havilah is today, eastward in Africa. Genesis 2, verse 8. This is where the body of the first man, made of mud, formed the hallowed high grounds of Central East. Mud formed the hallowed high grounds of Central East Africa. Was formed. The actions of his soul with this understanding, thinking, reasoning, and willing was given later. Upon this completion, the original African man became a living soul. It was here, nearly 3 million years ago. The spirit of the great Father God was also made with Ish, and he became the deity made flesh. In truth, Ish became the Word, and the Word was God. He, genderless and made in the image and after the likeness of the Father God, was in fact God. What else could the Father of love make but of himself as far as images and likenesses go? Eden's garden, planet eastward, and also describes the body of man receiving the boundless spirit consciousness of his creator and the finite use of soul. These two gifts were placed in the center of the created man. His garden is made of pure thought activity, where things are made of thought. In the Hebrew language, Eden has a delightful garden of God. This is where man's will must be applied in the cultivation of his thoughts. Man's thoughts are either of choice flowers with perfumes or weeds of tumors. The term east and center are synonymous and interchangeable from a conscious point of view. This is why a true Muslim, yogi, Jew, adept, etc., faces the self, the east, when praying, meditating, or otherwise communicating with their and our Creator. Of course, some scholars call this degree of worship Sufism, occult, even devil worshiping, ho-hum, but these are mere scholars still unaware of the infinite God state of their own garden. If these students would just remember everything conformed to its own nature, It is in the nature of the mind to become God. Anyway, moving right along. Question number 57. Who were Adam and Eve? Answer: they are the mothers and fathers of the human family, Asiatics and Muslims. This is the question and answer of an American-born Egyptian adept master named Sheikh Sharif Abdul Ali. Ali masters prophets, angels, and saints are messengers using languages of wisdom, uniting divinity and matter. So, what is the meaning of this question and its answer? In the darkness of misunderstanding, the very simple becomes most complex. In the light of understanding, the complicated becomes simple. We need to understand Adam and Eve so that we can better know ourselves. At this level of Adam and Eve, we must go into Emmanuel, as it is true, it is the purpose of Adam and Eve. And it is, let me read that again. At this level of Adam and Eve, we must go into Emmanuel, as it is the purpose of Adam and Eve. It is the comprehensive revelation to the gospel that the great God and man are one. In order to give maximum appreciation and value to a thing, one must know how it was put together and for what purpose. Anything made was structured in time, and time will also determine the longevity of its life before the purpose has ebbed. Man is the pride of all God's creation. Most Holy Quran, chapter 36, ayah 10. To know the essence of Adam and Eve is to remain, to not know the essence of Adam and Eve is to remain in darkness from true human life. This darkness is no laughing matter. It is man's unconscious self-imprisonment between the two great illusions of his carnal birth and death. Man needs to know his life is actually spent to build a temple of perfected man. Most Holy Quran, chapter 5, verse 21. This life is nothing but an illusion and absorbed in the and absorbed in the finite duration of time. This is only Maya, just a simple play of consciousness. If at any time the life of man began, the time would come when it would end. Most Holy Quran, chapter 1. Islam, Islam, Islam. Gratitude, family. And I'll turn this meeting back over to our illustrious instructor, Dr. Shedu Amenti Al-Mohezi Sepsuel. Islam.
And Islamism, grand man. Gratitude for the reading of the scribes. That is a grand drawing, brother, and sisters, for most definitely, this was a powerful demonstration here, when we deal with the ancient history, of Kemet. It's very important that our people have a knowledge of this. And at certain points that were raised, many points that were raised throughout this whole drawing that were very powerful. One of them, when you were reading, brother Marvin Edwards Bay, goes back to when it was stated that when Moses led the tribes out of Egypt east into the promised land, and it says, did I mention the Moabites were already using Moab? The Amorites were busy in Ammon, and there were some Canaanites still in Canaan. In other words, the promised land was already being occupied by natives of that area. And unbeknownst to many people, those who occupied that land prior to the Israelites were known as Cadmonites. Cadmonite simply means indigenous. So they would have been the indigenous Canaanites. Cadmonite people, or the indigenous people, were there before any other people. That's all Cadmonite means. It means original, it means indigenous, and so forth and so on. So it says, in other words, the promised land was already being occupied by the natives of that area. And an accurate history would also reflect that the promised land was another lawful province of ancient Kemet. This is the truth. Unbeknownst to many, both Saudi Arabia and the region that, because that's all a part of Canaan land as well. All of that area was pretty much annexed by the ancient Cushites, who also established ancient Kemet, because we have to remember it was the ancient Cushites from Tarseti, the Nehesi, different names they give them. Those particular ones were the ones that began the civilization of ancient Kemet. And they annexed both what we call Saudi Arabia, Mecca, all of that. They were there during the birth of Muhammad, even prior to him. They were indigenous there. And then you had those who were indigenous right there in that area that we call Mount Sinai, and all the region of Moab, and which is where you get the Moabite stone and all that stuff. This was all up under at one time the rule of ancient Kemet, all a part of that capital empire and dominion. So it says, during this time, the only gods of the civilized world were the pharaohs, who were the rulers of the earth land, right? And they were not too pleased with those who called themselves Jews squatting on their land 100 years later in 1948, in Western-backed proclamation of Islamic occupied land. Then it says, case in point, the biblical Hebrew stories are not the true origin of the human family. They basically, truth and falsehood strangely mix. It says, these stories are mostly abstract versions of the divine creation and fall and perfection of man. They're of the true, well, not the true origin of the human family. And it ain't strange. We have ones that admit this truth but try to take credit. Like that one, I still never bought that book. I don't know if the Moors end up getting it. The one that has to do with when it says when the Jews were the ancient Hebrews, or the Jews were the ancient Hebrews, or ancient Hebrews were the Jews. I mean, the ancient Egyptians were the Jews. Is one that was speaking on this. He make a lot of parallels, and he don't want to admit that it was Kemet, that was actually there. So he's trying to act like they were ancient Jews. But nevertheless, it's a good read. I got to get the book myself. We have people like the brother in India who wrote the book as well. So all of these people that are finding their history of Kemet in their history are reverse engineering that history. And they want you to believe that Kemet came from them. But it can't come from all of these places. It couldn't come from India, and then at the same time come from, Saudi Arabia, then come from, the Israelite culture. I mean, come on, man. Let's stop it. We know the truth. Kemet was there before all of them, and everything else took from that and then came forth. And that's what we're going to touch on in this history as we go into this language. And there's two time periods we want y'all to focus on, as it relates to dealing with, what the scholars like to call pseudo-hieroglyphs. And the reason why they call them pseudo-hieroglyphs, because we showed you the history, that there were pseudo-hieroglyphs according to the history we read in our previous classes that deal with a lot of the rock art that had been deemed as an alphabet. This is nothing more than rock art. So that clears a lot of the cobwebs of confusion dealing with that aspect. We know that some of that stuff that is considered rock art, and a lot of it has to do with declaration, just wall decor. And so a lot of people have been misled. They have been run amok, led astray, so to speak. And also, when we go further into this matter, we're going to see why we have heard for years that the alphabet evolved from hieroglyphics. And this is what's going, now you will have the proper perspective of this and where they got this so-called concept from. Because it wasn't saying that it evolved. What they trying to say, it doesn't mean exactly what they are saying. You know, there's a catch-22 to this demonstration. We're going to expose that in a few minutes. You know, we're going to show you what they really meant by it. But it's two particular time frames biblically that we're going to touch on as well. You know, because this is very important. It's actually two different versions, you know, that actually came up out of this era of what they call the Hebrew. Two different alphabetical charts that were created under, you know, the so-called Hebrew time periods. And that's very important. We understand that, and we put everything in a proper perspective. So, you know, it went on to say again that the case in the point, the biblical stories are not the true origin of the human family. These stories are mostly abstract versions of the divine creation, fall, and perfection of man. These stories of the world were learned by an enslaved, it says, people, Hebrews, while under the Comedian rule and mystery system. The world's first religious creed, Islamism, by slaves, never being greater than their masters. They rarely understand the origin or nature of their master's creed. You know, so it says, anyway, the original Hebrews with Moses' Egyptian teachings did not believe that God or man had beginnings, nor did they believe that spirit man could die. We see that in Proverbs chapter 8, it talks about that. You know, when the Most High created everything, one was present. You know, that would be a part of the original Torah, right? You know, when you put them extra biblical books, if you want to add it into that, not the Torah itself, but it says, not as long as the great God lived, the Egyptian had taught Moses that man is a perfect being. And this is why the great Torah in its original Haribu text, it says, is far more accurate, it says, than today's infamous word of God. But only a few NBC people dig back far enough to the origin of a given matter. And this is very important that we understand this right here, because this is the dilemma that we've been dealing with as a people. So what I'm going to do, I'm going to show you some measures here, and I'll get these things to our family. I want to speak on this first. We know there was a time that Joseph, because we want to get into methodology, because we always talk about how the original methodology had to do with, you know, metaphysically interpreting, symbolically interpreting, esoterically interpreting, and we went into some of the ways on how we can actually decipher through math, dealing with the gematria, you know, great truths in regards to dealing with these teachings. We've seen the formulas that can be created, are formulas that already exist, so to speak, when you have the proper knowledge on this. And it's not strange that these formulas yield, you know, very impressive exegesis or interpretation of these ancient works, and takes it to an even greater level of unfoldment. That's something that the European hasn't been teaching. That's not their methodology, because they have chosen the methodology of Champollion. And so our methodology is a more refined, and I would say it's more superior to that, because it's based not only in one aspect on the mathematical laws of the universe, and we say mathematics, you know, are true. They don't lie. The math doesn't lie. You know, so if that's the case, then our exegesis based on the math would not be a lie as well. You know, that's a whole nother measure when we get into the gematria. That's a more evolved or elevated expression. But getting into the symbolic, the esoteric, the metaphysical, you know, exegesis or interpretation, this not only was proven to us, our proof of this is that we received the works of Hor Polynemus, Clement of Alexandria, a couple of these people that were also deemed as priests, and they all were using that methodology prior to the 19th century, when Champollion came in there and switched it up. And even he agreed. We proved that he agreed with Horapollo, you know, that he was right. So how would he be right and he didn't have an alphabet system? Again, we have to stress this so that our people can get it. If Champollion agreed he was right and he had no alphabet system, he did this symbolically, metaphorically, then this should tell you something. And then you got to look at the thing that we've been emphasizing, the difference between Champollion as far as qualifications are concerned. Champollion, self-proclaimed, he didn't see the Rosetta Stone in perfect person when he started dealing with this stuff. You know, he had a replica. And not only that, he had never been to Kemet at that time, but here's Horapollo, a real Egyptian priest. He had the methodology. Now, that's the same methodology we find in our Moorish Holy Quran. We showed this to you. Contemplate upon the meaning of these things. Now, let's go further back and see how much confirmation. I'm just coming off the head right now with things that are obvious in history that we already know that's been given. So if we go into the biblical account, that same methodology we can see was used prior to Moses by Prophet Yusuf or Prophet Joseph, because he went into Egypt. He ended up becoming an executive ruler. Not only did he become an executive ruler, it's not strange that all of these keys are leading right back to our Moorish Holy Quran, family. You know, like just dealing with the fact that the methodology is the same there as it is by the original Egyptian priests. And then we go back to Yusuf or Joseph. He was raised, you know, to be who he was, the executive ruler of the land by Pharaoh due to his interpretation of dreams. So our brother Yusuf or Joseph, you know, was one that was adept in giving symbolic and metaphorical and spiritual interpretations. So based upon that, he most definitely was exactly where he was supposed to be. And if he was in Kemet, he definitely had an influence at that particular time period, you know, over the expression. So we're looking at the two different, I said before, it was two different alphabets that was created from pictorials. This is what his concept of pictorials being created by pictures come from. So when you hear them say it didn't come from the ancient Egyptians, it came from the Hebrews that took pictures and made symbols and stuff out of it. We've been talking about this for years. And this is why Champollion thought, okay, well, let me do the same thing with the Greek alphabet. So even if the Hebrews did this, there's still no proof that the ancient Egyptians did this. And not only that, we got two different alphabet charts that were created by the Hebrews that are different, meaning the pictures, some of them are not there in one chart that are in the other one. And some of the symbols that they use in one are not the same in other, but this is considered Hebrew creations. You see what I'm saying? But you won't find an Egyptian creation by the ancestors with a chart like that. So when they say that the alphabet was born from hieroglyphs, they're not talking about, you know, the Egyptians themselves. They're actually speaking of the Hebrew version of the alphabet that come from there. Because that Hebrew version that they have, you know, I put it like this right here. They had two scripts. They had the Paleo and then they had the Pictorial. The Paleo actually derives from Phoenician. The Phoenician derives from Hieratic. You see what I'm saying? So you can see the time period and the gap between this, and also the language gaps on how these things come forth. So I'm going to give you a particular drawing here. I ain't going to go into all this stuff here, but I'm going to share the screen. Then I'm going to take you into some different aspects of this. So let me show you this right here. Give me 1 second. Let me share the screen, and we'll open everything up. Okay, so here we go right here. And this is just you'll find many of these types of PDFs out here dealing with the subject matter. Same area where I showed y'all Mount Sinai where the tablets are today. Well, you know, Moses went up there and he said he came down and he broke the tablets of the law because they was bucking. The Israelite were worshiping the golden calf. We find out they was in the area of the goddess Het Heru, or even the temple of Dendera, as they call it. which was a goddess temple. And so you would see the sacred cow, that represented her was in this region. So it makes sense according to the biblical narrative, fitting it in with the archaeological evidence. When it said it was worshiping that golden calf, there is a golden calf that you will find in the relics of ancient Kemet. So it makes sense if Moses was up around this stuff and he went up and he got tablets, but his tablets all over this place. You see them. That's them right there. If you type it in, it's called Sarabat al-Qadim is the name they use now. But listen to this. This is just a brief, and I'm going to scan through this because I got more to cover, and I get this to our Moorish kin once we're done. It says how the alphabet was born from hieroglyphs, right? And it says a fascinating account on the origin of the alphabet from the Egyptian hieroglyphics. Now, we know these pictures the Hebrews got off of Egyptian monuments. We ain't denying that. What we are saying is that the methodology that the Hebrews used was not the methodology, that the Egyptians used. This was their own creation. And this is why, even though this is considered authentic language of the Hebrews, scholars call it pseudo-hieroglyphs. You see, meaning that they were used as a purpose that the ancient Egyptians didn't intend to use them. So though the Hebrews created an alphabet with the symbols they seen, it wasn't the Egyptians. So when they say that, a lot of scholars have been deceptive, and they'll say the alphabet come from the hieroglyphics, but they don't make this emphasis. They don't tell you this part. And so they have you thinking, oh, this come from the ancient Egyptians doing this. No, these are symbols that were taken off of the Egyptian monuments, created by the Hebrews into their own system. Ain't got nothing to do with what the ancient Egyptians was doing. You have to have the wisdom, and nobody is talking about this. So you have to have the wisdom to distinguish between this, because if other than that, they say the alphabet originated from hieroglyphs, and they leave it up in the air, and then you think they're talking about the ancient Egyptians. But see, this is the catch-22. So they basically feeding you, the truth, but at the same time, truth and falsehood strangely mix. You see, because they cannot pull an alphabet chart like the one we find in the Hebrew history from the ancient Egyptians. You ain't gonna find it. The only one that was created later, claiming to be that, is the one that was created by Champollion, which we know his chart didn't exist 3,000 years ago. You see, and he is right in our time frame. So anyway, it says a fascinating account of the origin of the alphabet from the Egyptian hieroglyphics to the first sound pictures, Hebrew, and now all languages. This article lends credibility to Frank T. Sicken Book's Hebrew word pictures. How does the Hebrew alphabet reveal prophetic truths? And they got their own breakdown of this, family. And watch this. Anyway, it says, to the Asiatics, as they were called, of the lush Nile Delta, it says, with its open marshlands rich with fish and fowl, a veritable Garden of Eden. Veritable Garden of Eden. A lot of people don't know this term Asiatics was a term that they used for people in general. Asiatic is a term that was replied to all Remet, even the Egyptians themselves in some cases. A lot of people don't know that, but that's a whole nother mention. It was used as a blanket term, but it also was used for foreigners too. But it says from earliest times, Canaanites and other Asiatics would come and settle here. Indeed, this is the background of the biblical story of the famine in Canaan that led to Jacob's descent into Egypt, right? So this is Jacob in Kemet as well, right? So we see a lot of them. We even see that they have seals on this. For those who don't believe that Jacob was there, in Kemet, and they say that story ain't real, well, all you got to do is do this here. Hold up. This ain't the one I want to go into this, because Google always give me a better search. The beta, we'll do it here. Hold up. Here we go. Let's see. So it's I showed these before. I actually got them on my page. There you go, right there. So you see this right here? We're gonna go into this. This is the seal, and there's actually one, and this is, notice it used the term Hyksos. You know, this is the actual seal. All of these here you see. See, it says Yaqub here,
Islam.
Islam.
So what are you showing? Because it's still showing
Okay.
the. Okay.
Okay, give me a second, brother. Thank you for letting me know. Okay, I don't see it till I pull my screen up, so I'm glad you notified me of that. Let me stop this and I'm gonna share my whole screen and then we'll pull it up. So yeah, here we go right here. That'll work. So now you see it, brother?
Islam.
Okay, Islam. There we go. So there it is right here, the Yaqub seal. You know, Yaqub. They have three names that we use: Yaqub, Yaqub El, and Yaqub Om. You know, but this is the main seal right here that you're gonna find. You know, and they'll tell you, see it right there? Yaqub is the name Yaqub. You see, Jacob. You see, this stuff been here. You know, and they'll tell you that this date back to the Hyksos period as well. See, evidence of Jacob's family in Egypt. You see? So that's a whole nother measure right there in and of itself to go into that history. So this is archaeology right here, you know, dealing with this name. Even the name Yeshua or Isa is actually Egyptian. We proved this before. So, you know, this is just a whole nother measure. So they had, in other words, one methodology dealing with these signs and symbols, you know, that was utilized during the time of Joseph. And then there was a time that this demonstration was used during the time of Musa or Moses. You see? And they actually have, I'm gonna see if I can pull one of these up right here. Let's see. Just give me 1 second. I'm gonna start sharing it again. Okay. So we putting everything in the proper perspective so that our people know what's going on here and they'll actually get it. Okay, let's see here. See if it'll let me go into that actual place. Okay, here's one right here. Okay. Let's see here. Here we go here. Let's see. Is this the one? Okay, yeah, this is one. Okay, here it is, right? This is the page I was trying to pull up right here. So let me share this real quick and show it to you. Come on now. What you closing up for? Don't you be running. Page trying to run from me over here, Moles. Okay. Here it is here. Okay, so I'm gonna share entire screen that way our people can see this. Okay, here we go right here. This is just giving some insight where you know you can find this stuff right here, right? And look at what they're trying to say here. See this right here? The first Moses inscription, right? It says Hebrew was the world's first alphabet. Now you see, you already know that this is pro-Hebrew, and they trying to tell you this is the first alphabet. You know, that again is partially a partial truth. It's not the first alphabet because what they call Hebrew was really called Phoenician before that. You see what I'm saying? Right here is what I'm talking about. This alphabet right here that they call in Paleo-Hebrew was originally called Phoenician. So we can't just say that this is the first Hebrew alphabet. You see what I'm saying? So they took from this Phoenician and compared some type of way pictorially, you know, to these symbols here. So this is their hieroglyphic. Notice they use the term Egyptian hieroglyphics here, right? But this is not the same alphabet chart as Champollion. You know, these symbols do not mean the same thing that Champollion chart. They way off from each other. You see what I'm saying? These symbols right here. And this is the same thing over here, but they just showing you where they got them from. They got the numbers on them, where everything come from. Sinai 377, they log all of this stuff, where they found these things at. So they call this the Mosaic hieroglyphic Hebrew alphabet. So when they say the alphabet came from hieroglyphics, this is the script that they're talking about. The only relation of this to ancient Kemet is that they got these symbols off of the walls of Kemet. You see what I'm saying? So you see how they tie the truth in there and mix it with falsehood? They're not saying, oh, the hieroglyphic chart that was created according to this Hebrew alphabet here, so to speak, that we've been talking about all the while. And that's what gave your guy Champollion the thought, well, let me create my own, since they got this demonstration over here. And so as you can see they have what they call Masoretic Hebrew. This is the box version. This is actually what some people call Yiddish and everything. But this is actually a recent version. This is not the original Hebrew right here, even though this is what we mostly see. This is the Paleo, and this is what was originally Phoenician that they are calling Paleo Hebrew. And then this is your pictorial here. See, they got the dates up here, 1859, 1100 BC, 1100 to 550 BC. Then we come 550 all the way to 70 AD. See what I'm saying? They talk about the vowels and how they was originated by the Masoretes. You see, because they didn't have vowels in them, just like, the hieratic, so forth and so on. But this actually derived from the hieratic originally. You see, via from the Phoenician. So the hieratic is the actual older alphabet itself. That's why I say, it's like truth and falsehood when they make the statements they make in this. So anyway, notice it's using the term pictograms, Egyptian hieroglyphics. Yes, these are Egyptian hieroglyphics, meaning the symbols, but these symbols were not used in the way that the Hebrews began to use them. You can't find this chart as being used by the ancient Egyptians. And not only that, there's another chart that's also dealing with them. So the Egyptian didn't have nothing to do with that either. This is another Hebrew says it's two charts. You see, one of them, some attribute to the time of Joseph, and then the others attribute to Moses as this one. So listen to what they say as they go on into this. The first Moses inscription was Hebrew was the world's oldest first alphabet, historical origin of alphabet. And that's when people always write in history trying to give props to themselves instead of telling their whole truth. Now notice, Hebrew is the world's oldest alphabet. Hebrew is the mother alphabet of all other languages. You see what they're saying, right? Again, it's deceptive to say that. Then they're saying it's the mother English, Phoenician, Arabic are derived directly from Hebrew. We know better than that. We know, and even real Hebrews will tell you that that ain't right, because they know that their language come from Phoenician. The Phoenician culture predated the Hebrews. You see what I'm saying? These people crazy. But this is how people try to throw something in here and throw y'all. If I was an Israelite in Hebrew, I'd take this right here and run with it, because this support the Hebrews being before anything. See what I'm saying? Between 1859 and 1842, Joseph, Ephraim, and Manasseh invented the world's first alphabet shortly after they moved to Avarice, known as Tela Deba. Now they saying Joseph, Ephraim, and Manasseh because this seed, Ephraim and Manasseh, were of the Egyptian birth. And actually, Ephraim and Manasseh also have Moabite attachments to them. I did this research a long time ago when I found out that they was Egyptians. Ephraim and Manasseh, they Kemetic. So they're telling you that Moses had a measure, but they're saying that these symbols first came from the time of Joseph. Like I was saying, then here on the Moses, they're trying to say, well, this is what they evolved on into the alphabet here. You see, but there's actually another alphabet I'm gonna show you. So yeah, it goes into all of this stuff right here. This is biblical.ca, and this is why, because of the source that it's coming from, but you got to know how to read between the lines. You know, they're gonna always do that right there. Here's the book right here. It's a book worthy, I think, of getting if you know, to look into it or whatever the case may be, but it gives the direct timeline here. See, even though they use the term Mosaic hieroglyphic script, but they saying by Joseph. Joseph was before Moses. You see what I'm saying? Only reason they saying Mosaic because they want to deal with the 5 books, and that was a part of the history, so they're gonna call it Mosaic. You know, Paleo Hebrew scripts, you know, and by Samuel 1050 and BC, they saying Samuel came up with the Paleo Hebrew script. You know, but we know that was already there because that was Phoenician. Then your Aramaic Hebrew square script, they trying to say comes from Ezra. You know, which we know that actually is different. It's the same thing, Masoretic Hebrew vowel script. You know, see, so they say here between 1859, Joseph and Ephraim, right? It says that Manasseh invented the world's first alphabet shortly after they moved to E.A.R.S, known as Tele-Deba. So if this is the case, right, this is telling you that it wasn't created by the ancient Egyptians, right? That's what it's telling you. It wasn't created by the ancient Egyptians. It was created by the Hebrew, right? So it says, remember, Joseph was a prophet, and God foresaw the need of his chosen people to have an alphabet for the laws of Moses. And God wrote down in 1446 BC at Mount Sinai, without an alphabet, there would be no law of Moses. You see, I beg to differ with that logic. You know what I mean? Because the Most High speaks to man through man. But anyway, it goes on and it goes into all these different alphabets. So you can go in here and read through it. I'm just making the point to show you that they talk about the Mosaic alphabet and try to speak on Joseph. But Joseph was dealing with symbolic interpretation. He knew that signs and symbols were conscious mind and men and women of understanding. You see what I'm saying? So right here, you know, they go into a lot of different breakdown on the different symbols. And look, they say the Hebrews selected 22 of the 734 Egyptian hieroglyphic symbols, just like your boy Champollion did, right? As their alphabet character set, and one of each of the 22 phonic sounds in Hebrew. So they took these symbols and compared them to, you know, their Hebrew sounds. And although each of the 22 Egyptian hieroglyphs had Egyptian word associated with it, the Hebrews ignored this and assigned a corresponding Hebrew word to represent the hieroglyph. There you go. We got them. Book them, Dano. Murder one. We got them. So next time somebody try to tell you that, you know, the alphabet came from the hieroglyphs, you ask them, you know, well, which hieroglyph are you talking about? Are you talking about, you know, the holy engravings, you know, the impressions that was put on the wall? Or are you talking about, you know, the Proto-Canaanite script of the Hebrews? See, this is what they mean. See, look, it say previously it was thought that Hebrew derived some Proto-Canaanite alphabet from Phoenician, but now this is false. See, they want to change that narrative. See what I'm saying? The Hebrew was the first and the oldest alphabet. We already know what one plan on. They trying to produce and put Hebrew over everything else, but we ain't trying to get into that right now. We just want to show some things, right? It says the first letter of each word represented a sound in their alphabet. Acrophony, for example, the Egyptian word for cow is ka, but for the Hebrew word for cow is aleph. See what I'm saying? See the difference between the two? You know, there's two different things here. So they got to make it make sense now. The Egyptian hieroglyph for cattle was cow head with horns, you see, and it goes on and so forth and so on and show you how they created this stuff. You know, then they tell them, we can prove that Hebrew is the original alphabet because it's the only alphabet in the world where the phonogram symbols correspond with all 22 letters of the alphabet, and all other languages acrophonic connection between the word cow is C, yet the English letter A, even today, 100-degree rotated symbol of the cow head with horns. So they talk about pictograms or pictures drawn to represent an object, an entire word object. Let's go back up here. What did they call these up here? Pictograms. They represent objects, not alphabets. But in the Hebrew thing, they became letters. See what I'm saying? This is why I'm telling you, this is where Champollion got his idea from, his blueprint from. You see what I'm saying? This is where he got it from, family. And we really don't know if the Hebrews necessarily was the one that created this. You know, the Europeans could have also created this. We're going to keep the door open for that thought, because we may come across something like that right there. But, you know, right now we're seeing that the Hebrews, according to what we have, that's how we deal with science. You know, when you find something else to come forth and give a little more information, then you do that. But we going with the evidence that's in front of us right now. So it says phonograms are pictures that represent a single sound that corresponds to the first sound of the object. See, echograms are 22 characters of the Hebrew alphabet used in all non-Hebrew languages like English, Arabic, and Latin, where the original acrophonic connection is broken. You see what I'm saying? So it also said up here too, I didn't read that, Chinese, Egyptian, and the wedges, circles, ovals, and triangles of Sumerian cuneiform. These all dealing with pictograms. You know, so they go into, you know, the pictograms, you know, pictures used to represent an object, word, and I keep saying that, you know, these are people, places, and things. That's basically all they represent. So they're showing the pictograms as the Egyptian hieroglyphs. They're not referring to them as alphabet. They were only pictograms converted into alphabets under the Hebrew disposition, so to speak. So it says the Egyptian hieroglyphs was not an alphabet. Uh-oh. God almighty, no. Wait a minute. We're going to read that again. And I got to open up for my scribes real quick after this one. The Egyptian hieroglyphs were not an alphabet. Wait a minute. I don't think they heard me. The Egyptian hieroglyphs were not an alphabet. Now, you know somebody going to say, it ain't, don't say that, child. That ain't what it say, Commission. It says, but pictograms that represented entire words and ideas. So they done made it plain and clear to us. Same thing we've been saying all the while. Just because they're hieroglyphics don't mean that they are letters. These are people, places, and things. They confirming it. They confirming it now. At least they truthful in letting you know. They ain't trying to tell you that these things was alphabets. At least they giving you that part there. So we got to give them a salute on that one right there. I'm going to stop right there before I go into the rest of this, because I want to hear from my scribes. I know they like, goodness gracious. Come on in here, scribes. I know y'all got something to say about this. Here's the dilemma. Ooh, wee. Islam.
Oh, I don't know. That's the Grand Secretary. Did you want to go first?
No, go ahead, Moore. My mind is blown right now.
I know what you mean. Yeah.
Woo.
Oh,
but you know, like it just, yeah, gratitude. This is not Marvin Ellis Bay. Praise knowledge have been given. You know, yeah, this is really going back to what you started out saying. You know what I mean? Just more proof of what actually happened. I mean, this is just showing you. I mean, they can't, some things, like even in our reading, some things they can't hide. You know what I mean? Because they have to use some of the truth in order to make sense of it. You know what I mean? But then they'll go in and add their little adjectives and verbs. You know what I mean? And propositions. I mean, that's where this is my own personal rendition, so to speak. You know, of how they go about doing things. I mean, these people built their buildings on sand, you know, and we are the wind. You know, we are that holy breath that's going to blow it away, you know, because it's just a bunch of lies. I mean, it's just time. I'd say just time consuming, but time never was when man was not. You know what I mean? This is what we were put here for. You know what I mean? To spend the time to break it down. And I'm just saying gratitude and grateful to be here. You know what I mean? Because you're doing a magnanimous job as an assistant Grand Sheik, instructor. Um, it's very powerful. I mean, but we just have to be diligent in holding the thought. I mean, that's the whole point, holding the thought. Because all they doing is presenting misdirections. You know what I mean? Fabrications, illusions, which the whole life is an illusion. Gratitude, God, man, for allowing me to speak. Islam and peace.
Islam and peace. That's right, brother. Don't get no plainer than that. Ooh wee.
Islam.
Islam, Grand Secretary of State. Goodness
Woo,
gracious.
gracious. You know, I just reminded me, having already risen, giving praise and honor, we're to remind me of, you know, when the chairman speak about, you won't believe me or your lying eyes. So I'm just looking at this.
I gotta
and
use that.
I'm just first of all, when you were demonstrating more, I saw more layers and layers, you know, as we go deeper into this research. And I recall when we were first doing languages, I don't know how many months ago, but I recognized that chart, you know, that um, from that chart that you presented. And I said, wait a minute, we had this chart before. And now it's like another layer being peeled off. And it's like the more we go into this, the more truth unfolds. And when you're looking at the Hebrews selected the 22 of the 734 Comethnian symbols as their alphabet, and Champollion did the same thing. You know, and again, we're looking at different source materials. And then the pictograms, because we had that word before, but now it's starting to make more sense. You spoke about the hieroglyphics dealing with people, persons, or places and things. Okay. And we had to be able to find the metaphysics of it, or what is it symbolizing. And when you were looking at which one are you speaking about when they wanted to say that the alphabet came from the hieroglyph, and then making a comparison dealing with, what are you talking about? You talking about the holy engravings or the impressions on the walls? You talking about the Proto-Canaanite script of the Hebrews? It's so much of a paradigm shift. I'm dealing with the South now, but there are so many keys just in what you have presented here, because you're given the historical, you're given the language, and you're given the archaeological, but it's starting to, you know, just like the pieces of a puzzle. The picture is becoming clearer and clearer, but the premise, the foundation is still everything came from us. Gratitude, more. Definitely appreciate this class. Peace and love.
Islam and peace and love. So now when they be talking about the alphabet come from the hieroglyphics, yeah, they did. But they didn't come from them in the way that they've been teaching they came from. See, that's the other part of the story they ain't getting. Truth and falsehood strangely mixed. All right.
Islam.
Sister Curtis Bay, I know you got something. I know you.
Oh, Lord. Oh, my goodness.
Take your time. Take your time. I know you got it.
Goodness. Oh, my goodness. I'm like the National Grand Secretary of State. I mean, oh man, Dr. Shaheed, this is so powerful. What you have going over, and like the goddess was saying, and I was thinking when they be talking about the alphabet comes from the Hebrews, and you know we have what that thing called the concordance. The strong concordance, and it's got the Hebrew and the Greek. And I can see why, you know, they want to make like everything come from the Hebrew. And when I was doing my studies, you know, before I come into the government, that's what, you know, you couldn't tell me that the Hebrew, that the language didn't come from the Hebrew, because we had concordances and Divine's dictionary and all that stuff, promoting the Hebrew language, the Hebrew teaching, and all, promoting all of that, but not really giving you the whole truth about where, like we talking about the hieroglyphs. They are not, they are pictures, places, and things. They are not alphabets. And also when you was talking about Joseph, um, I wrote down some notes when you was talking about Joseph, when I look at the dates, when they were saying something about the alphabet, Joseph, something about, I think you mentioned something about, they were saying something about Joseph, the alphabet come into existence around his time, around 1859. I was trying to keep up with writing the notes, but when I think about the dates, when I think about them dates like 1859 or the 1800s, well, our flag is way older than that. Our flag is older than that.
Well, that's part itself. That's 1859 BC.
Uh-huh.
Yeah, so that's a little bit, different time, and then because we AD.
Right.
You see what I'm saying? So I know where you was going with that, but that's different time. And but
Okay.
our flag literally is, like you say, older as far as dealing with the content, because our flag over 100,000 years old.
Right. Right.
Islam.
Yes,
Mhm.
yes, and that's what that's what I was thinking of. It's this is just a powerful thing, and like you say, when they be saying that, talking about the alphabet come from the hieroglyphs, and you saying, ask them, which one are you talking about? Are you saying it come from the Hebrew hieroglyphs that they didn't put up? Or did it come from the original? And that was just so powerful. And like the guys were saying, when you put that chart up there, I too recognized that. I say, I didn't saw that before, but I wasn't where I am now. When we went over this, when we first started learning about the Phoenicians and the alphabets and the glyphs and all of that, I wasn't where I am now. And when you showed that chart to us back then, I was like, okay, I understood what you were saying then, but now, when you going over it, when you just went over it a few minutes ago, going over that just opened up, like the goddess said, that opened up another level. It taken me deeper into it. I'm understanding it better. Now, do I understand all of it? No, I'm still unfolding in it, but it's becoming clearer and clearer to me as we go on and continue our studies and delving into this thing. I tell you, it's I'm just lost for words right now. Islam, gratitude for letting me share. Peace and love.
Islam, gratitude and peace and love. Ooh-wee. All right, brother Batibe, you got something you want to say?
Islam.
Oh,
One thing that I enjoy about research is that you see it exposes all the snakes in the grass. And with the information where it says about the Hebrew, and really what it's doing for me is it's showing that they just, what they did was, we're going to pick a language, and in that language we're going to say that this is the oldest language, and then from this basis we're going to plumb everything else that we're going to plumb our misinformation off this right here and spread it out to the world. And hopefully nobody does the research, because like the Willie Lynch theory, it'd be 300 to 3,000 years before they realize what happened. And unfortunately for them, we are on the manifest and exposing, exposing what the truth is. And so it's crazy to me. That's all I can I can really say at this point. You know what I'm saying? And I just like the fact that there's more references to speak to the fact that the hieroglyphs is not a language. There's too many people on YouTube. There's too many people on these reels that are thinking that they're deciphering the metadata or they're deciphering these hieroglyphs, and really they don't know what they're talking about. And this just shows, you fleeced. They're out here feasting the people. So with that, I'll leave as a coming piece. Islam.
Islam. I'm gonna ask you a question too, brother Bate Bey. If I were to find a rock fossil, and that rock fossil was 10,000 years old, right? And there was nothing on that rock fossil, but then I went, with a chisel and a hammer, and I chiseled something into that rock fossil, right? A symbol or pictures or whatever the case may be, right? Mm-hmm. Yeah, I just wrote on them or draw them in with a hard object. Does that mean that in which I did today is more ancient as the rock fossil?
Not at all.
But that's exactly what they would do.
Yes.
That's what they have been doing. They take ancient stones and they engrave certain things in them, and then they carbon date these stones and then say, this is how old the inscription is.
You know what I find
We're
crazy?
supposed to be dumb enough to accept that. Go ahead, brother.
Is that when you chisel something, it leaves off debris from the tool you used.
Uh-huh.
And since they're the ones that are doing it, they could say that, but if somebody comes behind them and do the research, and they'll be able to see the this alleged carbon dating, because that's not even a 100% science, but you could carbon date the tool that they use, because there's going to be debris from that tool or residue from that tool.
That's right. The only problem is too with antiquities, they got it on lock, so you ain't got no business doing nothing over there without nobody else seeing it. So they got to police them areas to make sure nobody can get over there to do that on their own, and then you accept what they say is the truth. You see how it go?
Mm-hmm.
And we don't supposed to know this though. Now I'm gonna go back into this here because it's gonna get deeper right here. Watch this, family. Now remember, they said it was 700 symbols. Remember we said it was originally said to be 700 Egyptian symbols. They say 734 here, right? So this means the Ptolemaic hieroglyphs wasn't created yet. They hadn't been even put in the picture. So imagine when they came up with the 7,000 symbols that didn't exist during the time of ancient Kemet. And this is why I keep telling them, Champollion got some of that stuff mixed in his alphabet. So you definitely know that ain't got nothing to do with Kemet. We already know the monuments come from the Ptolemies, but it says the fact that there were 734 different hieroglyphs clearly proves this was not an alphabet. Oh, they're going to drive home the point. They want to let it know that this ain't no alphabet. Go ahead, Brother Marvin Elvis.
You know what? Man, that's powerful.
Goodness gracious. Go, Brad. Go ahead, brother.
What? Can you hear me? Okay. Yeah. I was looking at this movie, right? This series by these lawyers. They call them Suits. And
you there, Brother Marvin? That was me. Uh-oh, did our brother drop? His mic, Scribes, can you hear me?
We can hear you, Dr. Shine. He knocked Edwards Bay.
Yeah.
Can you hear me now?
Oh, we hear you now, brother. It's long.
What happened? I mean,
I don't know, brother.
The picture started swirling like it was going out.
Oh, Lord.
Too much light. I keep telling y'all, too much light.
We were just talking about that earlier, brother. Go ahead.
Yes, sir. Yeah, I was saying, like, I was watching this movie, right? I mean, this series called Suits, and it was showing how these lawyers do, right? And this reminds me of that. You know what I mean? They can have I forgot what they call them. A proposal, not a proposal, an affidavit or whatever. You know what I mean? And they can know the truth, right? But then they would put it in like fine print and stuff it under a whole bunch of other stuff. Like they like bury it. You know what I mean? So this is what happened when the Ptolemies came up with all of these different, you know what I mean, hieroglyphs or symbols, and kind of like flooded all of the original symbols.
Yeah,
You know
of
what I mean?
course. Of course, 734 get lost in 7,000 easy.
Exactly.
That's what I've been saying the whole while. You know, like by the time they do that, what in the world is going on here? And so now watch what it says now. They done said it again that this clearly proves that this wasn't no alphabet. You know, but then they go on to say in 1927, Sir Allen Gardiner, we already know who this crook is, categorized and recorded each of the 734 pictograms in his monumental book, Egyptian Grammar, being the introduction of the study of hieroglyphs. We actually have this. It says, remember that the index A to Z does not correspond to the Egyptian alphabet. Instead, it was a part of Gardinia's alphanumeric categorization system. A through 12, A12, D53, we already know the Unicodes, right? So it says Egyptian hieroglyphs are a logophonetic system of writing, were used in three ways. First, some cases, each hieroglyphic symbol represented one or two of the of 24 Egyptian language consonants, right? And they really talking about words. You know, when they talking about like the trilaterals, bilaterals, unilaterals, and so forth and so on that make up words. They're not talking about, single letters. You see, it was this concept that the Hebrews borrowed from the Egyptians to create their first true phonographical alphabet in history. It says, second, in other cases, a hieroglyph represents an entire word. It says, third, sometimes hieroglyphs function as phonetically silent determinatives in order to differentiate between, for example, a full crescent moon, a morning, noon, evening sun. A standard hieroglyph for the sun will be followed by a second determinant to indicate something about the sunlight itself. Likewise, the determinant will follow the hieroglyphs for the moon to indicate different phases of the moon. In this way, determinants were phonetically silent but conveyed additional written information. Other times, determinants were needed to differentiate between the meaning of 2-3 words that were spelled the same way in consonants in the same sound. For example, in English, we have homonyms. It says same sound with different spelling, pair, and homograph for the same spelling sound with different meanings. Bat, flying mammal, baseball, pitcher, judge, baseball. Heteronyms spelled with different sounds. Egyptian hieroglyphic determinants were used to differentiate this same kind of thing in English. And it goes on. We're told that Joseph was 17 years old when he was sold into slavery and became fluent in reading, writing, and speaking the Egyptian language, which would have really been hieratic at the time. This is clear from Joseph's brother. It say, did not know, however, that Joseph understood. Let me see, it says, for there was, an interpreter between them. And notice it says interpreter. When you interpretate something, this is a whole nother measure. This goes into the symbolic interpretation because it tells you he was interpreter of dreams. Dreams don't deal with alphabets and letters unless you're dreaming by ABCs. Dream deal with people, places, and things. And see, he said he beheld the sun, moon, and star bowing down before his parents. He seen the stars bowing down in the sun and the moon bowing down, so to speak. And this was symbolic to his mother and his father represent the sun and the moon, and his brother represent the 12 stars. And when they got that revelation from Joseph, they like, oh no, he's saying he gonna rule over us, y'all. Let's throw him in a well. And they didn't know that was all a part of the plan. They're gonna throw him in the well and leave him for dead. So let it be a lesson for anybody that think they're gonna leave somebody for dead, that the great God Allah, sees, as one that he favors. Because you may be pushing him right into the situation that the Most High plans to push him into it, made him an executive ruler. They thought they were doing something to hide something and did something to really expose themselves, and still had to come back to him anyway in the same prophecy, just as the prophecy was. The prophecy was still fulfilled. So it said Jacob and Joseph's brothers moved into Egypt and then moved to Goshen in Avarice 1859. It was between 1859 and 1842 BC in Goshen that Joseph and Ephraim and Manasseh invented the world's first alphabet shortly after moving to Avarice, known as Tel Edebal. And it says that the Hebrews selected 22 of the Egyptian hieroglyphs and assigned their own unique Hebrew eyes for the phonographic sound, one for each Egyptian symbol. Here is Gardenia's sign list of 734 Egyptian hieroglyphs. And it says, although many of the Egyptian pictograms have a phonetic sound associated with them, they did not use these pictograms to spell out words as in modern English. There it go again. Each of the 22 letters of the modern Hebrew alphabet can be traced directly back to one of the 734 Egyptian hieroglyphs. From the Egyptian grammar being the introduction of the study of the hieroglyphs of Alec Gardenia, we know he got this from the Tanis manuscript. Remember I showed y'all the pictures of that? His idea of compiling this stuff this way. And each of these signs and symbols, they was written, though they were symbols, they had hieratic and demotic words beside them. You see, letting you know what language was really, like, we got too much proof for this stuff, man, archaeologically. You know, then it goes into phonograms, Hebrew as the proto-alphabet of all modern languages. So they're going to go into, you know, words in the picture of the object where the first letter of spoken word correspond to one of the letters of the alphabet. While phonograms did exist in Egyptian hieroglyphs, they were not used as an alphabet. Oh, I love this right here, man. I love this site here. Little truth and falsehood strangely mixed in here, but they talking that talk. Says the Hebrew copied the concept of Egyptian phonograms to create the first alphabet for the spoken language of Hebrew. We can prove English and all other alphabets is derived from Hebrew phonogram, not the Egyptian phonogram, because each letter of the English alphabet echoes a correspondence in the picture of Hebrew, not Egyptian. So what we know here is that they trying to claim everything is Hebrew, but we know it's really Phoenician. We ain't gonna let them get away with that now. And the only reason they canceling out everything else is because they want you to see. It says that the Hebrews selected 22 letters from the 734 Egyptian hieroglyphic symbols as their alphabet character set, one for each of the phonetic sounds in Hebrew. Although each of the 22 Egyptian hieroglyphs had Egyptian word associated with it, the Hebrews ignored this and assigned it corresponding Hebrew word to represent the hieroglyph. And now you see why it was different. So they're saying Joseph, Ephraim, and Manasseh is the ones that's supposed to have invented this. I beg to differ. I would say they all came into existence more than likely around the time Moses was there in his state, as far as dealing with that corresponding demonstration they try to come up with, if they want to go into it, because Joseph was dealing with things according to interpretation, just like Apollo, just like it tells us in our Moorish Holy Quran. So thus we have all these things saying the same thing, you know. So, you know, it goes on. It goes on and, you know, it goes on and says the whole thing, just running down the same thing. You can go back to this website. I got more ground to cover, so I don't want to spin it all right here. But you got the main thing here. And this, again, is www.bible.ca manuscripts, Hebrew words, oldest alphabet.com. You know, when you go into it, all you got to do is really type in, you know, the world's first Moses inscription. You know, and it'll bring this up. So I want to go here now. See, Sinai 361 Moses inscription. And it'll take you to this website, www.bible.ca manuscripts/manuscripts. You know, so yeah, that's the Proto-Sinaitic, Proto-Canaanite. You know, that's where they get a lot of it from. We showed you certain names. We can show you other Hebrew names in there, like Hezekiah, you know, like the Jezebel. which is like a female sphinx. We showed you all of these things before. It's proof of there being some overlap between the Hebrews, and the Egyptians. We also understand that there was a mixing in between them bloodline wise, which is where your Moabites, come into play in certain aspects because they represented it being an Egyptian colony that was in this region, according to our brother Mustafa Gadala. So that's a whole nother measure. So we know that's really talking about the ancestors. So we got to know the difference between the Hyksos and the Moabites, and that's a whole nother history in and of itself. So I got another measure I'm going into now. I'm gonna see, can I pull this up first before I even go here? Because we done went over this before too recently. We want to make sure that our family got this. Okay, let's see here. I think I wonder will it let me pull this up. Okay, yeah, this is the one I remember I was talking to y'all about the Technic script and where I say Gardenia got his idea from. See how it has the pictures right here, just like in his inscriptions, but on the side we see hieratic. So this is the pictorial inscription, but it's being described by the hieratic. You see? And these are the oldest scripts that we will find this way. So we can see the ancient Egyptians were demonstrating like that. But they didn't demonstrate as putting these as no one-letter alphabets. This was explaining what these particular things were according to the hieratic language. So yeah, it's a powerful demonstration, family. That's one aspect. There's another measure here I want to pull up too and show you all. That's very important as well. Let's see. Was it this one? Yeah, this is it right here. And I showed this, but it's good to go over it again. Nothing wrong with using the hammer of repetition. Listen to what it says. It says the origins of the hieroglyphic writing system. The term hieroglyphic is not a native designation for Egyptian writing system. So they're letting you know the Egyptians didn't use that terminology, but rather a term applied to that system by Greek visitors to Egypt. There we go. Even the term hieroglyphic itself, our ancient Egyptians wouldn't know what you were talking about if you call their language hieroglyphics. What are you talking about? It says the Egyptians themselves referred to hieroglyphs as METU, God's words. They say sacred engravings, holy engravings. So there's a difference between holy impressions, sacred engravings, sacred carvings, and God's words. Just alone in that's two different things. If I say spoken word, right? Just spoken word. And then I say, well, this is sacred writing. That's two different measures. But anyway, a term that refers not only to the sacred use of the script, but rather to reflects a long-standing belief that writing was a creation of the gift God, of the god Thot, a Tehuti. Although hieroglyphs are often taken as the paradigmatic form of all ancient Egyptian writing, the hieroglyphic script was in fact just one of the several scripts used at different times and in different contexts to record the spoken Egyptian language. The development, hold up, wait a minute. It says development of Egyptian hieroglyphic writing took place in the late pre-dynastic, early dynastic periods. It says in 3250-27 BC, a time of increasing complexity, when all of the main defining characteristics institution of ancient Egyptian culture first came into being. And all they're referring to is that rock art. They dating everything back to the time of rock art and trying to make that be language. So you got to look at that. But it says it has been suggested that the abundant rock art, there it is, founded on the roots of the eastern and western desert, may represent an early stage, we already know this ain't the truth because we done studied what rock art is, in the development of the written communication of Egypt, as may the pictorial motifs, incise pot marks found on some of the types of pre-dynastic ceramics, but it remains unclear what meaning these various images held for their creators and viewers. Meaning that we may say that they mean this according to Champollion's system, but did the ancient Egyptians demonstrate that? No. That's easy. Rock art, park marks, and other types of figural representations may well have had some sort of communicative purpose, and some of the motifs employed therein resemble signs that later appear in the corpus of standardized hieroglyphic signs, but they cannot be considered to represent writing in the accepted modern sense of visible speech. There you go. You see? So it says the earliest artifacts that clearly mark the origins of Egyptian writing derive from the pre-dynastic cemetery of el-Qaob, Abydos in Upper Egypt. Abydos, it says, was one of the three major centers of power in the pre-dynastic period alongside the cities of Heracleopolis and Nakada. And the elite burials at the site attest to the developing social hierarchy and institutionalization of power that characterized the pre-dynastic. So, all this right here is just going into that. But I had all of these different expressions of the alphabets, based on various charts, and I compared them to the system that your boy Champollion and the main Egyptologists used. So I took the Meroitic, which was a form that is also referred to as pseudo-hieroglyphs, and I began to compare them and say, okay, well, the letter A in Champollion chart is the bird, but then when we look over here, the letter A is a man. You don't see this man, not in this form, nowhere in Champollion chart. Then when you come to the B, this represents a whole cow, but B represents a foot here. So, who is right? This is older than Champollion chart. So should we take the Meroitic as? No, the ancient Egyptians didn't create the Meroitic because the Meroitic came after the ancient Egyptians. You see what I'm saying? But you see all these different nations are taken from these pictorials and they have their alphabet, but we don't see the ancient Egyptians. So if we can see all these, the Meroitic people, why don't the ancient Egyptians have a chart like this? See? Now look, let's go to the letter C. There is no C here. C often corresponds with the letter K. So this would be K right here. This is a goose. Look, they call this placenta right here, this little circle with lines in it. So that's totally different from the K. Ain't no C over here. So D, the letter D. Let's find the letter D. Look at the letter D. Look, this is I. This is the letter R in Champollion's chart, which is also seen like the mouth, and they put the I there as well. So this is letter D. So you see the confusion in this madness? And this is older than here now. Now this is just Meroitic here. This is the Meroitic script. Now let's move to this next chart because it's the same thing. Now this is the Paleo-Hebrew we were just talking about, the Mosaic Hebrew, the stuff they talking about from Joseph now, right? Look at this. Letter A. Now look at the letter A here. Totally different from this and the letter A that's up here. 3 different symbols for the letter A in 3 different languages. God almighty. Let's go to the letter B. This is a foot in Champollion's chart, right? But when you come over here, the letter B is nothing like the foot. They call this the house. This ain't even the same. Let's go to the letter again. They got G interchangeable with K also. So that's replacing the C as well. See, 2 different symbols. Now let's go to the letter D. A hand versus, what is that? They call it a door, entrance. So you got a hand versus a door entrance in the Hebraic, hieroglyphs. Then you got a man here for the letter H. H is corresponding with the letter E. They're interchangeable in sound shifting. This is basically a feather. This is a man. So W is the next letter. W is interchangeable with the letter F as well and the letter P in sound shifting, right? So this is the serpent here. And this little thing here look like a letter Y. Some people might say, oh, it look like the serpent. Yeah, right. And this is the letter G. And so we can keep going on and on. We see these pictures don't correspond with Champollion chart neither the Meroitic nor the Hebrew here, right? So let's go again and isolate it. Same thing, hieroglyphic chart correspond. It's basically the same chart I just showed you. This is the last one here. This Hebrew chart that they have as hieroglyphics, it don't even correspond with this Hebrew chart. Let's see what I'm talking about. Now, this is the Hebrew alphabet chart going letter for letter, right? They say this is the letter Aleph. This represents the letter man. Ad. This is A. Look at it, the man running here. Let's go to the Hebrew. See what the letter A is in this Hebrew chart? It ain't even the same as the A in this Hebrew chart. Let's go to the letter B in this Hebrew chart. Now let's go to the B in this Hebrew chart. We can see it looks similar, but it's not exactly the same. That ain't even the same symbol. We ain't gonna get that to them. We ain't gonna let them get away with it. We ain't give them no cushion. So here we go. This is letter G right here. This is G right here. Ga, they call it. See? They even got the little Masoretic text on the side of here. They got the arm here, right? Let's go over here and see what we got over here. No, that's not the same symbol. They call this the foot. Gathir, walk. This is two different Hebrew charts created from Pictorial. So which one of these is the right one? Look, this is D right here, right? This is the letter D in this chart, right? But when you come over here, let's see what the letter D is. Nope, that's the door hanging. Let's go back. This is the letter H. The letter H is what the letter B should have been up here. See, they got the house right there. Look, see there in the letter B right here? What's the letter H down here? A man. Don't correspond with what's going on over here. See what I'm saying, man? Come on, man. We got to stop. There's two different Hebrew charts that came supposedly came, allegedly. We got to say allegedly, you know, but both of them supposed to derive from the pictorials. Some of these, can we even consider them a part of the pictorials? That's another thing. Are they just made up symbols? You see, some of them look familiar. But God almighty, no. I'm gonna stop. I got to open it up for my scribes again, people. Let me open this up for. Hold up. You know what? Because we got to compare this to Champollion chart too. Because I didn't put the chart of compare. Let's see what Champollion chart do with this one. That's the letter A. Let's see what it says in Champollion. It's a bird. Same thing. Okay, let's go over here. That's the letter B. Let's see what it says in Champollion. That's the, come on, man. We ain't even got to keep going through it. This is terrible. Here we have 4 different charts. One Meroitic, one Proto-Sinaitic, Proto-Canaanite. Actually, 2 of them, but, you know, and all of these charts different from each other, having different letters represented. You know how much confusion that is? And then Champollion went and created his version. That's why people call them pseudo-hieroglyphs. Because though they come from Egyptian hieroglyphs, they are being misrepresented as if they are demonstrated this way by the ancient Egyptians, when all these charts were created after the ancient Egyptians. Find me a chart. Since everybody else got their chart, we asking you, so-called Egyptolemites, to find an alphabet chart from the ancient Egyptians, and they can't do it. They can't do it. They cannot do it, Moorish Ken. Oh, this is terrible. I'm going to show y'all something. Watch this. Watch this. I like to use a little humor. Let me see here. This is my little TikTok profile right here. I have some little videos. I've been trying to put stuff on it. Look like some people been watching it. Watch this. Look at this. Watch this now. This is when they were trying to call themselves ganging up. Hold up, let me see. Can it really turn up? Okay.
Can't hear anything, Mo.
Well, you can't. Oh, I got. You know what? Hold up. What I got to do is I got to reshare it. I'm sorry. I shared one tab. Okay, now I'm gonna share it and I'm gonna share the audio. Give me 1 second here. Here we go. Here we go. Here we go.
No chart. I already told you
Here
that.
we go. Y'all can hear it now, Morris Ken?
Audience, right
Yes, sir.
now,
Okay.
right? What is a decipherment method? Right? You have to do that because otherwise you're just making stuff up.
Reggie, again, I want to see the chart that exists prior to. I'm asking this question for a reason. All you got to do is admit it ain't there chart.
It ain't no chart. I already told you that.
So y'all agree it ain't no chart that
I said it's a Rosetta Stone.
Okay, so y'all all agree unanimously that there is no chart that existed prior to Champ.
I don't know. It might. I don't know. I don't think it is. But go ahead.
I'm saying, okay,
like what kind of chart? What you mean?
We're gonna give you a thumb up for you admitting.
Okay.
You right. What about you, Reggie? What about you, Reggie? You agree that it wasn't
I already said what I said.
So y'all see Reggie ran. So you see he ran, right? Pew, he took off. And now the problem is.
So y'all see that, right? You know, this is what happened when I asked them these questions, family. They run, right? That was funny. He took off. But everybody else agreed that it wasn't no chart. And that's all you got to do. You know, stop trying to defend something that you don't have no knowledge of. So I'm finna open it up to my scribes again right here. Islam scribe, what y'all got to say?
Islam.
Go ahead, family. God almighty.
Gratitude that was big. Out of Texas territory. Praise none have been given. To me, you know what I mean, after you unveiled a lot of the deception, and I see it clearly as a deception. I mean, no matter who the original author of it was clear to me. It's clearly a deceptive move. You know, I mean, all of those supposed to be Hebrew charts, yet neither one of them can conform to one. That's to me is obvious a deceptive move. I mean, somebody just created some charts, you know what I mean, to throw people off. You know what I mean? And I'm thinking that the only way we can get back to the truth is go back to either the stone representation or the hieratic, you know, however you want to look at it. Gratitude for allowing me to speak.
That's right. Going back to the hieratic. That's right. And that's the thing. They want to bypass that and make it look like everything else was what it was. Because this is a conspiracy, like you say, deception. It's coming from those in the ADL, like the Jews. You know, they want to push their narrative, so they tried to hide the history of Manetho. You know, and they did that because they didn't want nobody to know that they was perceived as the Hyksos. You know, the ones who was being cast out. So that's why they hid that. Right. Then you can see how they tried to twist it and reverse engineer the history and try to say everything come from the Hebrew instead of what came before the Hebrew. So, you know, we got two people at work here. We got the Jewish community at work and we got the Europeans at work. And that's why this thing is going up like this here. And then not to mention Egyptolemites and Champollion in the game. Like, are you going to believe me or are you going to believe your lying eyes? I told you I was going to use it.
You know what, Morris Ken, when you were speaking, Dr. Shaheed and Dr. Edwards Bay just came right out and said it's deceptive. It reminds me of when you have the Moors that put out a demonstration. And I can literally declare within 24 hours or less, you might have what the flag looks like. Okay. And next thing you know, somebody took a crayon and, well, I want the flag to be black and I want to put some orange in here. No matter what is put out coming from the original, you're going to have 50 million different, interpretations so that when the people come searching for the truth, well, I don't know what the path is, and I can remember that same feeling just in trying to research the history of my ancestors prior to slavery. One called them barbarians and, there ain't nothing but pirates. And it was so much muck and mire that, you end up a lot of times getting confused and later for it because you became frustrated. You didn't know what was the true demonstration. That's prior to knowing how we are to question and the answer. So, you know, that you can see the similarities. There ain't nothing new under the sun. Islam.
Islam, man, I tell you, we
Islam.
Islam, Sister Curtis, man.
Islam. Dr. Shaheed, I tell you, when you showing these charts, I hope our Moorish kids, who's out there listening, I hope y'all really appreciate what this God man is doing, because I mean, it's right there. He comparing it. I mean, we jumping from one, showing you. I mean, you got 4 different ones, and all of them is different. I mean, how can that be? How can that be? You know, but what you see, family, and what I know is to be truth is that I see a people like already been said, Dr. Marvin Evans Bay and my National Grand Secretary of State. It's deception because we were the first people here. We were here in the beginning, and they came, you know, we the one made them, and they trying to hide that from you, but you can't hide the truth. We were here in the beginning. We were here in the beginning. I can't say that enough. We are the gods of the land. We were here in the beginning. We were here in the beginning. We were here in the beginning. I can't say that enough, you know, and they came later. We the one created, we the one made them, but they trying to write themselves into history. That's what you see. That's where all the deception is coming from, because they're trying to deceive you as they are the gods of the land. But we already know better than that. They're not the gods of the land. We are the gods of the land. And you can see it. The further they go back, all you see is us. And that's why they're trying to color coded and chip nose off things. And that's why they're doing what they're doing, because they're trying to write themselves in history. But family, don't let them fool you. I mean, we're giving you the truth. It's here. And I don't, you know, if you can't receive what we are saying, I'm going to ask you to truly pray and ask the great God Allah to open up your heart and your mind, that your mind will be open to see the truth. Tell him to take the scales off your eyes and open up your ears so you can hear. And I promise you, he will. He'll open it up where you can understand it, where you can get it. Because see, I understand where you're coming from. I was where you were. I thought that everything the Europeans said was true. And then when I found out that I had been lied to, I mean, I was hurt. And I had to go back and question everything that I was taught by that European. Oh man, Islam, gratitude, family. We love y'all. Islam, peace and love.
Sister Curtis, I want to know why Reggie giving me so much credit, talking about I made it up. I got to have some super intellectual capability to make all this stuff up.
I know, right?
That existed before I existed.
Right.
I mean, I know time never was. I've been ever present, but and then why he took off like that? Pew.
That's the most Masonic technique.
He know. That brother, I don't know where he come from. Go ahead, brother Marmez.
Yeah, you do. Yeah, you do.
Yeah, I do.
Yeah, to me, that's a Masonic technique. You know what I mean?
Put the words right off my mouth.
Yeah, that's right, everybody.
Yeah.
Hey, you know he erased them pictures. I mean, them videos where I was exposing that Masonic conversation. He deleted them.
Oh,
but I still got them recorded on the old.
You can't hide the truth.
Right.
Yeah. I still got it recorded on the old broadcast when I exposed it.
Right.
You know, so yeah, and his teachers that he be talking about, they were definitely in the Masonic Lodge.
Oh yeah, without a doubt.
So,
contradiction.
Yeah, he got caught with the hands taking out 50 pieces of silver.
Right.
That's exactly what it was.
Mm-hmm.
You know, and so yeah, it's terrible, man, that people would like to see our people sleep like this. and leave them in the dark, but they can't do it when you got Moors like us.
Well, they don't sold their soul. I mean, like when one cell, when they make their beds with the enemy, so to speak, I mean, they can't help but come up with, different mannerisms and all of that goes with it,
Right. You're right.
But, they took oaths too, brother. Y'all, if they in that Masonic stuff, they took oaths, so they can't speak freely. Like they ain't free like we are. They can't speak freely like we do, because I mean, their lives might be threatened. They might get taken off.
Well,
so they can't speak freely like we do.
Well, all they have to do is the prophet said he forgive them from everything that they did before he came. You know what I mean? You know what I mean?
They like that money,
they ain't following the prophet.
They like that
exactly.
That's what money and power.
Money and power. Yeah, they like that money and power. They ain't gonna give that up.
Oh yeah, that's why they be asking, you ain't dropped me no money in the cash app yet.
Right.
Yeah.
Crazy.
Well, they seal their own demise, I guess,
Yeah. That one, like when they son, because everybody can get up there and get a presentation. But if for some reason everybody got their tight brother commission, everybody can talk. But when I get up there, we got to make sure we convolute what he said, y'all. That's how you know somebody's son.
Yeah.
Because they ain't doing the same thing with everybody else.
That's right.
But we know what time it is, but they still can't put the truth out.
That's right.
You know what?
People gonna see it regardless. Islam.
I was using this AI that they had on Microsoft, right?
Mm-hmm.
Bing, and I was able to get all kind of information, man. Some deep stuff. And then all of a sudden, they changed the whole thing. They took it off.
There you go.
Said, okay.
That's too much.
What were you trying to do?
Huh?
What were you trying to do with AI?
That's what I'm saying. I'm just getting into some deep wisdom or whatever you want to call it. It's test the waters. And
you ask certain questions, they won't tell you. Like
that's
if
the
you
whole
ask
thing. Asking the right question.
Like if you ask them, how do you deal with certain on financial forecasting? They'll say AI can't get that information up. They hold that back. We can't give you that information right there. I say, oh, they done did that, huh? That's after they had that meeting, though, I believe. When everybody talking about AI was exposing them.
Mm-hmm. Because the AI, when they first put it up, it was like really open. So whatever you ask, it would go. It's because they have access to all of the information. So made, put on the manifest. But then they got those ones. See, because it's all in the programming. You know what I mean? Mm-hmm. So they say, well, we got to do something about this quickly.
Mm-hmm. Yeah, they put a glitch in there so it won't give you certain information. Hide the truth just like a real person would.
And and they would, try to mix Christianity with the ancients' teachings. How can that even be?
Mm-hmm.
I say, okay, I get it.
So now they can move quickly when they want to move quickly.
Mm-hmm.
That's right.
That part.
Islam,
Islam.
Mm-hmm.
And it's terrible, family. Well, I'm gonna show y'all what we got in store, because y'all actually have these documents right here. And them alphabets come out of one of them. I know y'all probably remember it. Let me do this here. I'm gonna share the entire screen. It's gonna be part of our assignment for the weekend. This is the one that one come into, and it gets into the history. Y'all remember this document here. The Hebrew characters derived from the hieroglyphics.
Yes, sir. Do you intend to have that over the whole screen, or
what? Talking about open up like that?
Well, I'm talking about over the whole screen, or just on the side.
Let me see. Hold up. I see what you're saying. Let me go here. There we go. Yeah, I definitely intended to have it right here. Okay.
Oh,
so yeah. This is the one. That definitely. This one here is going into a lot of that history on how they created some of this stuff. You see? So it's good to go into this, see these characters. These are the same one that come from this book. And it run down the history on exactly how they came up with it from this perspective, as opposed to the other I gave you. Because everybody telling their own story.
I'm sorry. You say we already have this, you say?
Yeah, I had sent it to y'all a while back.
Oh Lord.
Yeah, but I'm gonna resend it out though.
Yeah, please.
Thank you.
Yeah, I copied it all out in physical paper.
Islam?
Yeah, I copied it out on the printer. You know,
Islam. You know, I have this book. I don't know what you suggested it, and I got it. It's called the Illustrated Signs and Symbols Source Book, and it has a lot of those symbols.
Yeah, that's one of them. One of the signs and symbol book. The new one I just bought. You talking about with the green cover, right?
Well, this one here has
with the symbols on the front of the book.
Yeah, exactly.
The gold and black is looking one.
Right, exactly.
I know. Yeah, I got that one. Yeah, that's my.
That one.
That's the first one I brought.
Okay.
But the green one actually go into. Remember, it was showing you that the symbols wasn't alphabets.
Mm-hmm.
They tried to say I made that up too.
Which one is that? Because I can get that one too.
That's what I had showed when we first started coming into this in the first few classes.
Okay.
A few weeks ago.
Because I know I got two signs and symbols books.
Is it green? Do you have a green one?
No, I got that one, the black one, black and white one.
Yeah.
The first one.
Mm-hmm. Oh, you talking about that's the dictionary of symbols there.
Yeah, okay.
But I'm talking about it's another green one that I put up there. It's in the original whatchamacallit.
I'm going to go
you
through that.
You got to go back to the original videos. I know Grand Secretary of State. Remember I was showing y'all in that book where it was saying it was talking about logograms and pictograms and showing y'all that the pictures, they tell you that they wasn't alphabets. Remember that a few weeks ago?
Yeah.
Yeah, that book of signs.
I probably
that
missed
came
that
from
class.
Barnes and Nobles. Huh?
I said I might have missed that class.
I think you wasn't in that class.
Yeah.
I think that was the day that you didn't come in too, as a matter of fact. But yeah, you just got to go back. It's in this string of videos. If you go back like 3-4 videos,
okay,
you know, you'll see it in there. And
right.
I went into it a couple of times too. But so yeah, this particular measure here, like I say, I had sent it out a while back, but I'm sending it out to y'all, you know, today, you know, whenever we get done or whatever. But you know, they have certain things, you know how to read through it and find it. You know, this goes into the sound. They tell you how they come up with this stuff. They're gonna tell you a slightly different story in the way that they told it, but you know, you'll be able to read between it because you know the truth, you know. And they'll tell you basically how they corresponded each letter per character with this Hebrew stuff, like, you know, how they come up with this stuff, each letter. See, they got the Hebrew in the box Hebrew, you know, and showing you what they made it to represent. Like they told you, they made it to represent what they made it to represent, as opposed to what it represented to the ancient Kimite. So, yeah, this is one of the works that I'm showing.
That's deep.
Mm-hmm. No. So yeah, it's gonna go through every different aspect here, and then I get into the actual homework behind it in a little bit. This is the other book that I gave the Moors, you know, and this was actually compared to its Egyptian symbols compared to those of the Hebrews, you know, and this is based on Horapollo's writings, you know, so they compared it based upon Horapollo's writings. Let me go up here. Look at who had this book. McCoy, Masonic Supply Company, 1903. So they be hiding this stuff. Principle of symbology. You know, do symbols exist in spoken language before translated into written language? So they're going to get into a lot of that conversation. You know, dealing with the esoteric, the symbolic meanings, and see what I'm saying? All over the land, China, Mexico, they getting into all that there. But these books are very important and very relevant to this conversation that we talking about now. I ain't trying to go all the way into it. The next phase we'll go into it once y'all get a chance to get in y'all session, and we'll go into this and take it to the next phase. Let's see.
Right.
Let's see.
Well,
it actually shows them with pictures. I'm just going through. This is the introductory portion. Go ahead, Brother Marvin Appleby.
So yeah, you're definitely preparing our mind, because like the guys were saying, when we first started it was really Greek. I mean, it is Greek. You know what I mean? But you know what I mean? Now it makes more sense. I mean, like all the times we used to try to figure out different alphabets. Then they had 3 or 4, 5 different versions of the alphabets. You know what I mean? All part of that same deception thing too. But but as we held the thought, you know what I mean? As you held the thought, you know what I mean? And led us through the minefields, it began to make sense, took form, especially as I purify my heart and mind. That's the whole point. When we purify our hearts and minds, the God in us will show us the way.
Now remember, I was telling you that Clement of Alexandria was considered among the Egyptian priests. We already know this. It's like about 4 or 5 of them. Remember we first started talking about all the scholars that come before the 19th century.
Right.
And they talk about that here, say the question thus presented can be resolved, but in 2 ways, by the testimony of the writings of antiquity and by the application of Hebrew to hieroglyphic symbols. Clement of Alexandria, the father of modern Egyptian science, in express terms that touching mysterious things, the symbols of the Egyptians are like unto those of the Hebrews. And then it says the authority of Clement Alexandrius cannot be doubted, even though Champollion stuff's supposed to be done trumped here. It says, for his testimony is the foundation on which Champollion and the Egyptologists erect their systems of interpreting Egyptian writings, even though they're trying to cancel out Clement now. Clement Alexandria, fortified with Bible reading, could not have produced so extraordinary assimilation for a Christian and Egyptian, it says, without being in possession of proofs of the truth of his assertion. In the Bible in Hebrew, only may we seek the explanation of the Egyptian symbols. Whether this interpretation appear true or false, it cannot be affirmed nor denied without proofs. In questions of this nature, the argument is subordinate to the facts. It says, and to the facts alone we appeal. And it says the first result of this system would be to give the explanatory method of the Egyptian symbol that Champollion acts for his precise syllabology in his analysis of the Egyptian text. So, it just goes and show you that he was going along with what was there until he come up with his own little creation. He was going along with Pope Clement and everybody else was saying. So it's going into the application of the Egyptian symbols, Ho'opolo symbols. They're going into the same stuff in Ho'opolo book, which y'all have already. I sent that out before.
Yep, we got that.
But it's breaking it down to see the Hebrew words up in here and showing you the comparisons, letter per se. You see what I'm saying?
Yes.
So we showing you,
yes,
the best of how the symbology come up there and how they come and made up their little alphabets, and put them in the letter form, and we're going to send you this one too that I was reading earlier. And remember that website that I gave you, that's just for you keeping and being able to do your own research further into it, and make it plain. So yeah, that's basically what we wanted to show you. And at this point, we can actually go to our Grand Secretary of the State and we can get ready to shut this demonstration down. It's been a powerful drawing today, though. Islamism without the schism. Well, all right. You got it, Grand Secretary of the State.
Islam, Islam, Islam. Having already risen, giving praise and honor where due, I want to say much gratitude to you, Dr. Shaheed, for all of the truths that you brought forth in this class, as always, taking us even further in depth and receiving even more revelation from these special lessons. Can enough honor be given to our scribes, our family online, and also the divine journey that we're on. It just makes one even more excited, to be able to go back and do the research on our history, and constantly get that unfoldment, just like when we were first interpreting the papyri, and knowing that we had priests, various papyri. I can't think of the name right now, that had all of the medical and and interpretations and how to heal yourself. So all of these things are ours, and it's up to us to be able to make that stand, go back and comprehend and bring even more so unfoldment when it comes down to the future guidance of the nation, because not only are we researchers, we are creators. So it's up to us to be able to create what it is that we see will be necessary in the future. So all of this is a part of the 360 degrees that we are standing upon. So gratitude more for all of your due diligence and bringing these lessons forth. Peace and love.
Islam and gratitude and peace and love, Grand Secretary of the State, for that drawing. All right. Well, let us call forth our Grand National Chairman, if he's present, Dr. Akin Acton Per M. Heru, Tutankhamun Bay. Who y'all gonna believe, him or your lying eyes?
He's on a mission right now, Dr. Shaheed. Gratitude.
Islam. Praise be to Allah. Well, all right. Well, all right. Scribes, y'all got any closing remarks?
Islam,
Sister Curtis Bay.
Islam. Dr. Shaheed, I tell you, this has just been, like you said, this has been a powerful class. And as I look back and think back when we first started, and to see it just keep getting better and better and better. And I get more clarity the more you go over. Because like we've been saying, when we first started this, like Brother Evans Bay said, it looked like Greek. It was Greek, but it looked like some gibbly, that I didn't have a clue. But as we continue to go, and as we go forward and go deeper and deeper, and what I love about you have what's the word I'm looking for? You have a great way of it's another word I can use, but right now you have a wonderful way of taking the Piscine area, taking them scriptures, and I'll be eating that up. How you take those scriptures and then you take us deeper into what I already, how I was taught, because basically we was taught by the European, but you take, like you was talking about Joseph and how he was given that interpretation about how basically they was going to bow down before him, and when I was thinking about that whole story of Joseph, I mean, man, that's a powerful story, and because we're in the chapter we are in talking about weakness, and the opposite of weakness to me would be strength. And I can see in Brother Joseph, everything that he went through, and especially with the Pharaoh's wives trying to come after him, and these are weaknesses, but he passed them. Oh man, it's just, my mind is just going, but this has just been a powerful class, and going and what you assured us, and going through everything, the different charts that we have, and looking forward to the homework. Hopefully I understand it, but this is just wonderful, family, and it's I praise the great God Allah for letting me be born at this, to be a part of this. See, I was born in Christianity and stuff, but to have him for me to come to this point where I am in my life, I give him the praise that I wouldn't change nothing. I wouldn't change nothing, because everything that I went through was for this right here, what he's preparing us for today. And I can and all of y'all probably you can say that same thing. Everything that you went through, it was preparation for where you are right now and where you are yet to go. It's powerful, family. Gratitude for letting me share. Peace and love.
And gratitude for you sharing, Goddess and Queen. Peace and love. Allah is leading on, and victory is sure.
That's long.
Doubt or contradiction. All right.
Islam.
Islamism without the schism.
Islam. One thing that I'm gonna say about that, I remember watching this. I don't know if it was a reel, but it was one from. It was a clip from a movie where or it was just, it might have been a recording, and it says that the Ashkenazi was going to use the Europeans to aid in the system and taking over the world. And they were going to do it through the banking and use the European as basically the muscle. And we see that in their collaboration that they used the language, they used a whole bunch of things in order to get us outside the understanding of who we truly are. And the other aspect of it, I remember reading this book called Matter Circle by Robert Ludlum. And in this book, it says it was two operatives that was overseas in Russia. And the one from America said, you got to create as much confusion in order to distract them, so you can get your plan off. And what do you see today? And that kind of that speaks to the fact of the language and how many different you got. Champollion, and then you got the Ashkenazis, that had used the hieroglyphics in order to say that it's Hebrew, or that the Hebrew came, or that the hieroglyphics came from the Hebrew, and they caused confusion there. Then they scramble the nations, to change the maps, do everything in their power in order to hide what the truth is. But we know one thing about the truth, that it can never die. And therefore, we are the ones that are here. Give everyone honors on the panel. And all those, even the Asian brothers that did the Akub page, and the DB page, and honest to help, they aided and assisted in helping us decipher all the this information to bring forth the truth. So with that, I'll just leave as a common piece. Islam.
Islam, brother. And that's right. Yeah, we give honors to all them. And one thing about it, all our sources that we've been using, they can't say, oh, y'all using the European. Yeah, we critique the European sources, but all the sources we've been using for what it is we bring forth come from people outside of European culture. As far as presenting our position, Mustafa Gadala, Walter Williams. I mean, we can go on and on. So yeah, man, all I can tell you, wait till we finish with our. We be embarking on a journey that ain't never been went upon before. We the first to do it, Martha.
Islam.
For some reason, it just happened that way. We can't help that.
Well, we've been prophesied. I mean,
that's right.
Man, as quiet as it's kept. I mean, we are the ones to do the work. You know what I mean? And we have to, and Dr. Ed was very praising on us, given. I mean, more and more, I'm growing into an understanding, like Dr. Daniel was saying, when we first started out. But, the more we do these lessons, the more we purify our hearts and minds, the more we come into our own, And I mean, it's just so wonderful, As we are fearfully and wonderfully made, We become fearless because the truth will make you free. And this is what we're getting in this North American government, the truth. I mean, it overcomes any obstacles, if there's an obstacle. The obstacle is just an illusion. When we come into the reality of who we are, being spirit beings, It's just such a wonderful thing to be a part of this in this new era of time now. Glad to God, man, for all you do. I mean,
Oh yeah, Islam, and I'm gonna tell you something, family. To be honest with you, it don't get no plainer than what we done brought, man. We creating a whole nother paradigm shift with this, and we got plenty to back it up with. Wait till we put everything in order, like I was showing y'all, and giving a sneak preview of my book. Wait till we finish with that and the other documents that we have to put out here. And that's going to make it all the more better. So we working on it. And I just sent y'all the homework assignment. Y'all should have got it. I just dropped it in the inbox right then. It's really one point. We dealing with, let me know that y'all got it, Morris, kid. And they got all the documents in there too. The same ones I just showed you. And Brother Bati Bey, you can come forth as well if you got another measure to give while the other Moors are looking for their measure.
I don't see mine yet.
Oh, yeah? Okay, let me see again. Because I sent it as a reply email to the one that you already have.
Oh,
so
the
you
one
may
from
have
today?
to. Huh?
You put it in with the one that you sent this morning?
Yeah, I just resent it to that. So it'll be attached to that email.
Yeah.
Yeah, you may have to refresh your email, family, and scroll down. Open it up and you'll see it. It's in the string of emails I just sent.
Mm-mm.
You got to close it out first.
Yeah.
Close your present email out and refresh it. And then go back into it and you should see it. It's in there. I'm looking at it right now.
Mm-mm.
It's probably going to take it time to load, and I'll resend it if not.
I don't see nothing.
Yeah, because I got totally out my Gmail, refreshed, got back in, and I still don't see it.
Yeah.
It's probably going to take a little minute for it to.
Okay.
What I'm going to do this right here.
And this is that homework you just sent us?
Yeah, I'm looking at it right now. What I'm finna do, I'm finna resend it again. And I'm gonna send it in a separate email.
Okay.
Let's see.
Yeah, definitely.
That should get it in there. Yes, sir. But yeah, Brother Bati Bey, you got the floor if you got something you want to give us in drawing on the way out.
No, I really don't have no more to say except for I enjoyed this class. Islam.
Islamism without the schism. Praise be to Allah. All right.
I like to say to the Moors out there in the audience, man, like, many was chosen, but few were called, as they say, and I know there are Moors out there, and just like they have those that come in and want to create a little confusion, You know what I mean? Well, all we got to do is stand up for the truth, you know? And because the God is in you, you know what I mean? Believe that.
That's
Walk
right.
on that. Stand on that. You
Most
know,
definitely.
it'll be all right.
That's
Gratitude.
right.
Yes, sir.
Praise be to Allah. Gratitude. So, okay. I'm finna send this here. And then we're going to turn it over to Sister Dendra.
Islam.
Let me put this up here and copy all these names in here in this present email. And yeah, y'all will probably see the first one I sent. It'll probably come up later anyway. But we'll just send this out here to make it even. We know you got it this way. All right. All right, there we go. Let's see, it just came back to me, so I know it should have reached y'all. If it didn't, I know it's gonna take time for it to load up because I just sent it to you all. I'm gonna close my windows out. Sometimes that might be an issue too. So yeah, close all of them out.
Got it.
I
Got it.
Yeah.
Okay.
Yep, got it. That's like you. It was made for the Mufti degree.
Oh yeah. Praise be.
Woo.
Islam, I got it too.
All right.
Islam.
Praise Allah.
Praise Allah.
Islam. Allah is due to praise. So
Yes, sir.
all right. Go ahead. Brother Evans Bay, I think you were finna say something.
Oh, no, I just got my mic open. Yeah, body.
Okay, Islam. Okay, all right. Well, all right. Sister Curtis Bay.
Oh,
Did Curtis Bay hear you?
I think she did. I don't know.
okay. I'm just a reading and got my mic closed.
Uh-oh.
Can y'all hear me now?
Oh, yeah, we hear you now. I was just finna say, can you hear me, Sister Curtis Bay?
Islam. I was just a reading that didn't even unmute my mic. I was looking at that homework. But anyway, January 15, 1929, a warning from the prophet to be read at every meeting. I hereby inform all citizens that they must end all radical agitating speeches while at work, in their homes, or on the streets. We are for peace and not destruction. Stop flashing your cards at Europeans. It causes confusion. Remember, your card is for your salvation. Failure to obey these orders would be a severe consequence. We are for love, truth, peace, freedom, and justice. And when these principles are violated, justice must then take its course. Any citizen or group of citizens who hold malicious feelings toward the government or the prophet or violate the divine covenant of the Moorish movement will receive their reward from Allah, for their unjust deeds. All true Moors will and must obey the law as laid down to them by their prophet. If they lose confidence in their prophet, they should turn in their card and button, cease wearing their turban and fez, and return to the state where I, the prophet, found you. This is a holy and divine movement founded by the prophet Noble Jew Ali. And if the prophet is not right, the government is not right. The prophet, therefore, is sending out the divine plea to all Moorish Americans that they do their part in protecting their prophet and the government. This is an everlasting movement founded by the prophet through the will of Allah to redeem his people from their sinful ways by the order of prophet Noble Jew Ali. A holy covenant of the Asiatic nation. Ye are the children of one father, provided for by his care, and the breast of one mother have given you suck. Let the bonds of affection, therefore, unite thee with thy brothers, that peace and happiness may dwell in thy father's house. And when ye separate in the world, remember the relation that bindeth you to love and unity, and prefer not a stranger before thy own blood. If thy brother is in adversity, assist him. If thy sister is in trouble, forsake her not. So shall the fortunes of thy father contribute to the support of his whole race, and his care be continued to you all in your love to each other. Islam, Islam, Islam. This meeting is officially adjourned according to Act 2, Love, Truth, Peace, Freedom, and Justice. Go in peace, Moors. Islam. Great class, family. Grand class.
Great class,
Great
Dr.
class.
Sohee. Gratitude, scribe.
Islam. Gratitude.
Wow.
Yes,
What do you say? Make it make sense.
Yeah, make it make sense. Islam, family. We love
That's
you.
right.
Hold that thought.
Yeah, hold
Praise
that up.
Allah.
Peace
Yes,
and
sir.
love.
Woo.
Peace and love.
Peace and love.
Yeah.
Peace and love.
Islam. All right, now I want to give honors to our family checking in too. Tyrif Bay, Swindler Hoodwink, Carlos Childress, Marvin Edwards Bay, Tarif Bay, Born Dog, all of y'all. Islamism without the schism. We'll see y'all later, and we get ready for Sunday school.
Islam. Gratitude. Peace and love, family.
Peace and
Peace and
love.
love.